My 33 male, wife, 34 females, ex just died. He left a kid who isn't biologically either of ours. How do I talk to my wife about taking the kid in? So yeah, basically what it says on the tin. My wife, Cara, used to be married to a guy with which she has 1 kid. My stepdaughter, Charlotte, 9. I've always wanted to be a dad, but I'm unfortunately unable to have kids biologically, so I've been treating Charlotte like my own daughter and showering her with love. After Cara and her ex broke up, he had his son Levi, 5, with another woman. Levi is not an affair baby. Cara's ex didn't even start seeing Levi's mum until a year after he and Cara got divorced. Last week, Cara's ex passed away in a car wreck. From what I know, Levi's mum won't take him in, and Cara's ex has no close family who will take him in. Levi is currently staying in a foster home, and if no one steps up, Levi will become a ward of the state and enter our state's god-awful foster system permanently. The other thing is that Charlotte loves her little brother so much, and obviously she's devastated about her dad. I think that staying connected with her brother will help Charlotte through the grief, and that staying with his sister will help Levi. The thing is, Cara absolutely loathes her ex. Their split up was pretty much on the worst of terms, and their divorce was the messiest that I've ever heard of. She once told me that if it wasn't for Charlotte, she would have moved across the country and never thought about him again. I'm worried that she won't want to take in Levi because of his connections to her ex. I don't know how to talk to Cara about potentially stepping up to take Levi in, or if she might be gravely insulted if I brought this up. I know that Levi is not technically mine or Cara's problem, but he's an innocent child and Charlotte's little brother, and I would feel guilty if I didn't even try to take him in. Edit, since a lot of people have been asking, the reason that Levi's mum can't and won't take him in is because she lost custody a while ago and has no interest in fighting to get it back. I don't know why she lost custody, but I believe that she's on the sex offender registry for something quite serious. In the comments, Fox112 says, "Well, dude, she is your wife. We're just random strangers on the internet, and this is a seriously large decision. I would recommend just talking to her about it and seeing how she feels. Are you even able to take the child?" And OP replies, "Well, I've never been in my wife's position, and I was thinking maybe someone with more experience could give me advice. I love my wife, but she can be a bit, let's say, volatile when it comes to anything involving her ex. And yes, we are able to take the kid in, well, financially at least." Info needed. Did Cara have much contact with Levi prior to the accident? If she did, that might make it a little bit easier. But you also do need to go with that it's Charlotte's brother. Just think how you will put this, and start by admitting to her that she may or may not like the idea. But there is the possibility that she's trying to figure out how to bring it up to you. So think of it as making it easier to say what she wants. I think you're going to do okay. And OP says, "No, she purposely didn't form a relationship with him so she'd have less attachments to her ex. I actually saw the kid more often than my wife because I handled most of the childcare stuff with my stepdaughter, which included pickup and drop-off from visits with her dad." I'm curious what your relationship was like with your wife's ex. It seems like you and him had a better relationship than your wife and him. I'm not saying you guys were buddy-buddy. OP says, "He and I were cordial, but if I'm being frank, he was a massive douchebag. My wife and I would rock, paper, scissors sometime to see who would have to deal with him." Do you think your wife will be able to be a loving parent to Levi, the same way that she is with Charlotte? Physically taking him in is only the beginning of the journey. And OP says, "Knowing my wife, yes, I think she would. She may hate the idea, or she may not, but I don't think she's physically capable of hating a little kid once she gets to know him. That's why she avoided forming a relationship with her ex's kid, I think. She didn't want to get too attached to someone adjacent to her ex, but that's just my speculation, of course." What did the ex do for Cara to divorce him? Damn, man. Answer. OP says, "The better question is, what didn't he do? And is a man not allowed to sleep? He cheated, lied, gaslit her, they had screaming matches, and during the divorce, he tried to keep my stepdaughter away from her. He made things up about her in court to try to serve this end. The only thing he never did was hit her. I would approach her from the standpoint of Charlotte not losing both a dad and brother. She just lost her dad, now she might lose her brother too? Heartbreaking. But OP, please note, this does not mean guilt-tripping her into it. It's still a decision that needs to be a firm yes from both of you. Bringing the kid into a home where one parent resents his presence will not be helpful either. Point out how much it means and the positive impacts, but also prepare yourself to give her time to think and be ready to hear no as a response and think about what that means for you. This is good advice. I wonder if also it would be possible to offer to foster him with his sister while a more permanent solution is being figured out. I don't know if this will just muddy things further. I don't know if they know the kid at all. He might be a complete menace and a detriment to the family. It could work out swimmingly, but it's sort of hard to know how things will fit if they don't know the child at all. Don't ask if she wants to take her ex's kid in. Ask if she wants to take her child's brother. No matter how much she hates her ex, her child is half him. I love Charlotte. She is my daughter. She is half you and your ex. I cannot in good conscience know that her sibling is out there, most probably living a horrible life. I would like to discuss increasing our family. And that you both need to think about Charlotte and the impact of losing her brother to the system. And now, on to the update. So after reading through as many comments as I could, I was even more nervous than ever about talking to my wife. I was also even more convinced that this was a conversation I needed to have sooner rather than later. I also tried to get more information about Levi's situation and why no one could take him from my wife, and according to Kara, Levi's mum emigrated from another country and doesn't have any family here. One of her ex's parents is in aged care and the other is unwilling for some reason. As for the rest of his extended family, I don't know, and neither does she. But she did say that he has no contact with most of his family and has been disowned by a fair number of them. Someone may reach out in the future, but it does seem unlikely. Last night, Charlotte was over at her friend's house for a sleepover, so Kara and I had dinner alone together. I started by bringing up how lonely I thought Charlotte was and how glad I was that she was feeling well enough to go over to her friend's house. Kara agreed, and I basically got straight to the point by saying how I thought that she'd feel better if she could spend time with her brother, and asked if she might consider taking on Levi as a kinship foster. Kara looked thoughtful for a minute, before tentatively agreeing. We're going to be taking steps to see about taking him in, and at the very least, setting up visits so that the siblings can see each other. This is a huge weight off of my shoulders, knowing that she doesn't resent a little kid for her relationship with his father, and that she was able to have a rational conversation regarding a topic related to her ex. The last time we had a conversation about him, I had accidentally used a phrase that her ex used a lot during their fights, and she got triggered by it. She ended up storming out and staying at a hotel for the night so that she could calm down. She is a lovely woman. I know it might not seem like that from my posts, but she really is. She had a really toxic and borderline abusive relationship, which almost resulted in her losing access to her daughter. So I hope that y'all don't think of her as a monster, but as a loving wife and mother with some trauma that she's trying her damnedest to work through with the support of her therapist and myself. In the comments, Cooler Than Unicorn says, "I'm so happy about this outcome. Your wife seems like a lovely woman." And OP says, "I know, right? I'm so thrilled, my jaw hurts from smiling so much." I'm glad Reddit didn't talk you out of this. There were so many negative and pessimistic comments that I was worried that you were going to abandon the idea. And OP says, "No one short of my wife herself would convince me not to. He's an innocent child who needs someone to love him. If anything, Reddit made me more determined to try. If I chickened out and never brought it up, everyone calling me a saint, completely undeserved, but that's besides the point, would be disappointed in me along with myself. I'm glad you were able to ask her and that you both were able to communicate about this issue. That's part of marriage. It's not all butterflies and rainbows. Sometimes we have to talk about the hard and difficult stuff. I hope this works out for all of you. Best of luck. Exactly. Good luck with this difficult issue. You are a great dad. I mean, it's going to be pretty much butterfly and rainbows for Levi compared to what might have awaited him in the foster system. Hey, sorry to nitpick, but this might help you in the future. She didn't have a borderline abusive relationship, she had an abusive relationship. There is no borderline with abuse. I just don't want you saying borderline to her in reference to it is all. With that said, I'm really glad that you were both able to have a productive and positive conversation about this. Both your daughter and Levi will be better together. No, you didn't paint your wife in any way. She had a bad previous relationship, and you were nervous about broaching a difficult subject. I'm really happy that she's open to the idea and that there is a path forward as a family. I agree with everyone saying family counseling. Levi lost a parent and living with new people. Charlotte is gaining a sibling living in her house. Kara may have complex feelings about taking on Levi, and you have to be the rock in that situation. That's a lot for everyone to handle, but we're rooting for you. Best of luck to your expanding family. Charlotte will love OP for this, not just now, but as an adult. She'll see the effort that OP and her mum made to keep the sibling relationship intact. This was a really difficult situation, but the outcome is lovely. OP's wife is damn strong, and OP is an amazing human being. Both kids are in good hands. And you know what? I have to agree. I think that this is the best situation that could have come out of this. I personally refrained from giving my take on the initial story for this one because I've not lived this. I don't know what to say about it, and I feel like the wide array of comments had more than enough advice that could help you out if you're in a situation like this. I'm glad that foster systems do exist, and some of them are good, but more often than not, from what I've heard, you want to keep those kids away from those foster systems and foster houses because it's just a terrible time, more often than not. So I'm glad that the siblings are together, we are not breaking a family up, and that Levi is not being put on a family that does not want him. Don't know what the hell's going on with everyone else that should be taking him in, but best that he stays away because what is going on with those people? Am I the asshole for rolling my eyes at my boyfriend's proposal because it took 25 years of me begging? Yesterday after dinner, my 52 female boyfriend of 30 years, 53 male, proposed to me. He just walked towards me holding a box and said to open it. It was a ring, and I had pictured this moment a million different times, but never thought that I'd be so apathetic. My boyfriend then said that he was retired now and wants to kick back and enjoy life with me and would love to do it all with me as his wife. A nice speech and all, but from the 5-year mark of our relationship onwards, I had been making clear my deep desire to marry and was consistently dismissed, given empty promises and gaslit. We had been through the gamut with therapy, and one counselor implied that me telling him that we needed to go to therapy and getting his butt on the couch still means nothing if his mind has been made up. I was in denial about the fact that he was just giving me the false illusion of progress to stall. My boyfriend and I have 4 kids. The oldest 3 are adults, while the youngest is 15 female. She was sleeping over elsewhere when this all went down. All of our kids went to private schools filled with typical southern soccer parents. I had to endure PTA mums' jabs about me not sharing a last name with my kids. Preteen years were hell because the other kids would taunt my kids by saying, "Your dad would rather sin and go to hell than marry your mum." My boyfriend's mum would tell him that marriage would be selfish on my part. It is just a piece of paper. My boyfriend ended up rising up the ranks until he became an executive. I was a stay-at-home mum, so I felt like there was always a power imbalance, exasperated by the fact that I could be tossed any time. I partly did stay because I wanted my kids to have the best life, and because I felt lucky and proud to be partnered with such an intelligent, successful man, but also because I loved him. These past few years, my boyfriend's career has taken a downturn. He will never be poor, but the company that he was part of took a nosedive during 2020, and he made enemies out of associates and board members. He decided to step back from his role and take the generous severance agreed upon. Now he's living off of his investments and wants to relax. I did not like how his career ended and how he treated people, and had been deciding whether I wanted to leave and find somebody else after our youngest turns 18. So the proposal was a shock, because I should hope that he noticed that I have avoided conversations about the future as of late. He rattles on about downsizing our house so we can travel, and also cutting back on our other expenses. But we're not married, so it's all his money and house anyway. He did notice my eye roll and was offended. He asked what's wrong, and I said that suddenly now that he's downsizing, I'm good enough to marry. He got mad and said that now that he's downsizing and no longer an executive, I suddenly think our relationship is disrespectful, and started implying that I was a gold digger. I was so angry that I walked out and said I might just go looking for a respectful relationship because I don't know what respect is anymore. Am I the asshole? In the comments, President Pug says, "And you didn't leave earlier because..." Seriously, if you start saying you want to get married at year 5, you dump him if he doesn't show he's going to make an effort by the end of year 6. Could be sunken cost fallacy. She literally addressed this though. She wanted a better life for her kids than she would have been able to give them on her own since she was a stay-at-home mum. Likely didn't have her own money, or it was limited. That's a real concern. She also mentioned being in the South. The safety net of resources down here is rotted through. And also that she genuinely did love him and enjoyed much of the relationship. A big part of what keeps people stuck in dead-end relationships is this exact reaction the comment section is having. At literally every stage of a bad relationship, people blame women. I get that I'll probably get downvoted for this, but she did give her reasons, and she's also not asking about those reasons. She's asking if she was an asshole for rolling her eyes and not being about it. Obviously not the asshole. She feels how she feels now. If she didn't have kids at year 5, she should have left him. People don't change after 5 years of ignoring you, no matter how much you love them or enjoy the relationship. If she didn't have a prenup before having kids, a pre-preg, while living with someone who kept demonstrating how little her happiness meant to him, she shouldn't have had them. I mean, she shouldn't have had unprotected sex with a guy who didn't want to marry her if that's what she needed to be happy. Unless she lived in a common law state and was considered legally married at the time for the purposes of alimony and child supports. Or, at least, unless she was staying with him while getting a degree and work experience to support herself and the kids. Anything else is fantasy land. I wish men and women both had to receive a little booklet and pass a test demonstrating basic knowledge of the legal realities of marriage before getting married, or before not getting married and having kids. It's incredibly risky for both partners. If I can't have sex with you, I'll just have it with someone else. Famous last words of Prince Charming. I feel for this woman, but come on. She lived and had 4 kids with an asshole. She's not the asshole, but she is the one who didn't look after her own interests or those of her own children. Wowza, what did he expect? What did you expect? Seriously, you wanted a marriage, but you stayed half your life with someone so set on making you the bad guy for wanting that until recently? Why would you stay with someone like that? Why would you reproduce with someone like that? Several times. It's just disappointing for your kids to suffer that much bullying for this. All for nothing. I don't know who the ass is, but unfortunately for him, he kinda missed his chance. And unfortunately for you, you put yourself in a box. I want to feel sorry for her, but she 100% played herself. She was his wife in every way except the one that really mattered. This dude is trash, but she acted like the dumpster smelled like roses, so I hope that it all works out for her in the end. Yeah, I don't think that she's the asshole for rolling her eyes at the boyfriend's proposal here, but 25 years of begging is a lot of time, and as these people have said, she was an asshole to herself for sticking in there and just letting it go on for so long. I don't know if it's right to say that you can blame her or you can only blame him for that one, but I don't know why she just didn't leave him. Why did you have kids with this man if he made it clear that he wasn't going to marry you? Why put yourself through all that torment for such a long time with his carrot dangling in front of your face? I feel like all the kids are good to go at this point. Like, the 15-year-old should be well set up. Why don't you just divorce now? That's me saying it in a place where there is that social safety net, and that would make the most sense, but I'm sure her circumstances lock her into this marriage, because the flip side is a terrible lifestyle by the sounds of it. Or just a huge degradation in the quality of life that you've come to expect these last 30 years. And now, onto the update. So at the time of my original post, my boyfriend and I had not spoken since the engagement fight. I've been with him long enough to know that when he goes and closes the bedroom door before I get in, that's a signal that I should sleep in one of the guest rooms. So I did that. However, this morning I broke the ice. I told him about how dismissed I felt over the years. I also said that we are both in our 50s, and these last few years have taught us that people at work who kiss the ground you walk on, one day can easily turn on you the next. And true partners in life are valuable and hard to find. So I wish that he'd treat me like I'm valued. Instead, he treats me like he thinks prettier, better, and just as loving is always around the corner. I apologized for the eye roll, but told him that if he wants marriage, I want a quick, committed timeline and genuine happiness from him to be marrying me. I don't need a big party. He listened to me and finally asked if this was about the money and security. He told me that being an executive's girlfriend required things of me, but if I wanted to work, I could have. He said he doesn't think I'm grateful enough for the position in society I was in due to his career, but that he's not mad about the eye roll. He said he didn't succeed by being that sensitive. He went on to say that I was not his prisoner, so that I can leave at any time, but to remember that he won't tolerate being made my prisoner either via manipulation. He said that for what it's worth, the engagement ring is mine and I could do whatever I wanted with it. He will also not be accused of not providing for his daughter, so be assured he won't shirk child support, but that he felt what I said before was emotional blackmail. So he no longer wants to go forward with marrying, but says if I'd like to travel with him, that's fine. Him traveling is non-negotiable, and so if I wanted to get a job, it would have to be a remote job. It was a sad conversation, and I spent a few hours alone after that. I felt I had nothing to lose, so I just asked him if he would support me getting an associate's, but that most associates for technical careers were in person. Then he dropped the bombshell that if I wasn't traveling with him, he wasn't going to go those periods without sex. I was astounded by his callousness, because he's back to take it or leave it. We fought again, with me saying that we're all feeling the effects of age. I've supported him through health issues, and if he thinks he can just find somebody who has that loyalty that I've shown him, then he's wrong. At this point, I'm looking for ways out. I can't say I haven't been tempted to say I'll travel with him and try to get a remote job, but also realize how resentful I am that he continues to need to have the power in the relationship. I don't think I'll ever know my value truly, but something's telling me there has to be better out there, at least in a partner. In the comments, Convivial Cat says, "You're the asshole to yourself. I'm an old, 65+ lady, and I've seen this scenario happen so many times, and it has never been a good thing for the woman involved. In fact, it has been an outright tragic disaster. Poverty is knocking on your door, OP, and it wants in. You have screwed yourself over in so many ways, the biggest of which was to not work over the last 30 years. You have no investments, no social security units earned, no 401k retirement, and no property. You made another huge mistake by not just grabbing that ring and immediately marrying your boyfriend, thereby cementing your ability to share in some of his investments, social security, etc. I don't care how unappreciated you felt. It was a moment in time, and now it's gone. A good lawyer may help, depending on where you live, but it is in no way guaranteed. If you had immediately married when he proposed, and he lived at least 10 more years, you would have been able to get widow's benefits. But not now. Now you get nothing. Do you have any money at all? Your own bank accounts or credit of any kind? At your age, it is a cruel world without getting credit or money. You had better hope that one or more of your adult children will take you in, or you could quickly find yourself homeless. I'm sorry to be so brutal, but I don't think that you have any clue how terrible things can get for you unless you can find a way to make an actual living. Even if you do, don't expect to ever retire. You, as many women are, will be working until you die. I'm so very sorry. This is the most brutal, eye-opening response I am reading as a 32-year-old woman who was on the fence about considering marriage. Holy shit. People try to say that marriage is just a piece of paper, but it's a whole bunch of legal protections. And social acceptance too. There's a reason that LGBT folks fought, and still fight, so effing hard for legal and equal recognition of their unions, their children, and their families both in law and in name. Electrical Risk says, "You have 3 adult children and one who is almost grown. You both sound like y'all have been waiting for the finish line of all the children being 18. Do your children know all of this is happening? These decisions will greatly affect your family dynamics going forward. You don't want to blindside them at Christmas. Let your kids know. Did he ask because you had a foot out the door for a while and everyone knows it? If she has a foot out the door, she's doing a really shitty job at it. Life is gonna wreck this woman if she leaves this dude. She hasn't prepared at all to be on her own." So you wasted 25 years on a man who was never going to marry you? Yes, 25 years. It's time to just leave. Staying with him is pointless. He will need to pay child support, but unfortunately, since he's living off of severance and interest, good luck with that. He planned everything out just right. And now, onto the final update. It's been over a month since I last posted, and my life has changed drastically. For those who didn't see my previous posts, my boyfriend of 30 years proposed after I had begged him for 25 years, and I had rolled my eyes because it took 25 years and him not being an executive anymore. In response, he retracted the proposal. I really wish this update could have been positive. But I'm not doing well. But what remains is hope. Hope in the kindness of others. My grown kids, employers, courts, even my kid's dad. Hope in the value of love that I've given so freely to my kid's dad. Because I was raised to believe even those who don't appreciate the love I've given them will eventually self-actualize and pay it back. Here's what has happened since. Since my kid's dad accused me of trying to keep him an emotional prisoner, I tried to show him that I valued his freedom. I gave him his space and showed that I could live life without trapping him. I started doing that right after our discussion. His reaction was anger. After our talk, he started glaring and picking fights over everything. The speed at which I did housework, my spending, within his allowance, and cut it to nearly zero. He also asked for the ring back during an argument. I took the comments to my posts to heart. In particular, advice telling me that if badgered, I should refuse to leave the house. Just a few days after our conversation about the engagement, he picked a fight and accused me of ignoring him. He said he wanted me out. I said no, I deserve to be here. He responded by having a lawyer send me a notice telling me to vacate that day. It happened so quickly that I was too shocked to react. My kids were torn between dad's bluffing and try to leave. But now he's filed to evict. It's up to the courts now. I tried looking for legal aid, but the person I talked to was cold and implied that my status as a mum and partner won't protect me from eviction. I've tried sending out applications for office jobs, but was told by friends to be kind to myself because if one rejection comes, something better will be along. My adult kids suggested I apply for SNAP, food stamps, and I haven't out of shame. They said if I do, and Dad and I no longer live together, the government will help me collect child support. My grown kids said they can't risk upsetting Dad. My oldest told me a gas station was hiring night shift, and he'd try to help me once he graduated. Just when I decided to just be grateful for the job, they rejected me after an interview where I feel I spoke well. That hurts. But I keep having hope because every day there are new remote and non-remote jobs posted saying they'll train the right candidates. I am applying to every corporation it seems, with hope that one of them will take a chance on me, give me an interview that I will ace, see me for somebody pulling herself up. I know my boyfriend wants me to beg, but I don't know if that would make him drop the suit. I just don't know anymore. I am in my corner of the house trying to keep things normal and applying like it's a job. I don't know what else to say, but that ends my update for now. I maintain hope and dignity." In the comments, a commenter asks if she has talked to a lawyer about common law marriage, and she says, "The woman at the legal aid place I visited said there is no hope of me making a common law claim because it's Arkansas, and because around the time my second was born, my boyfriend made me affirm in writing that despite living together, we are not married, not holding ourselves to be married, and I should not expect him to give me any support, besides support for minor children, if we break up. Unless, of course, we did end up marrying and register a marriage with the state, which he promised at the time to consider. He did this when he expected to take a job in a common law state, but that didn't end up happening since he got promoted here." A commenter suggests Amazon warehouse work as they literally hire anyone. And OP says, "I just think for me to be committed to something, I need to be passionate about it, and it would likely be in a marketing field. At this time, I just don't think that it would be a good fit for my needs and where I want to go from here. I've applied to around 100 marketing jobs for big corporations and small ones as well as remotes. Ideally, I'd like a remote position since I work better when I'm comfortable in my setting. My skills of competency are mostly around marketing and maybe something like investor relations, which my boyfriend's sister was in for around 80 years before she got married and changed to another role. I love creating beautiful imagery and speaking to people, even if they're strangers. I know it doesn't come off that way because I've been through a lot emotionally lately. I don't think I would be a personality fit around tradespeople. We would likely have nothing in common ever, and they run the gamut in terms of backgrounds that made them choose trades over an office job that climbs the corporate ladder." A commenter provides some temp suggestions, and OP says, "Thanks for the suggestion. I've been up and applying for some more jobs again, but was hoping to have a job where I wouldn't necessarily have to be in person because I still have a 15-year-old at home. She turns 16 soon, and her dad promised her a car, but he's known to retract or delay gifts, so I don't know. I'm also concerned because a lot of parents who send their kids to daycares are often the ones who go to work sick, and then their kids are also sick and are sent to daycares. I don't have the best immune system and have suffered from health issues and sensitivities as of late, so I do not want to get something and worse to pass it on to my daughter." OP also says, his former colleague sent him a letter, unsigned, saying how they were glad the board of directors pushed him out. He wants to leave the country soon to travel. I don't think he cares. Some of the women in my group have heard my story and either say they support me but cannot do so employment-wise or reputation-wise, or gave me coupons for blowouts and Botox, and then after I continued to show how desperate I was for help, they've been planning events without me. Flannel Smoothie says, "Seems like she's not the only family member held financially hostage." Yeah, some people are criticizing the kids as well, but the grown ones aren't completely independent yet. They are all under the jackass's thumb. They might also not be that financially stable to house another adult for an unknown amount of time and cover all her expenses. Not to mention, a lot of time cohabiting with parents or in-laws can be extremely stressful too. I commented on that first post that she was so screwed financially. Being a stay-at-home mum is risky, but being a stay-at-home mum without the legal protection of marriage is insanely risky. She needs to take whatever job she can get and not be picky about it. I don't think she's yet facing the reality of her situation. I don't think she's ever faced the reality of her situation. I cannot imagine how this woman's friends and family let her agree to this 25 years ago. If a friend of mine told me this was their plan, I would sit them down and have a damned intervention right that second. Because this situation, where she's left penniless and on the street in the Arkansas winter, was always how this was going to go. I do sort of love the detail that the ex got a letter from his colleagues about what a piece of shit he is, though. That's hard to believe, isn't it? His colleagues got together and committed a nastygram to paper? Wrote, "Dear OP's boyfriend, this is your official notification that you are a piece of shit and we are glad that you don't work here now. Worst regards, yours sincerely, everybody you ever worked with." Like, I would pay money to read that letter. On one hand, this woman was emotionally abused for years, and on the other, I just want to bang my head against a wall. She should have just gone along with the proposal and legal marriage. big if it would have ever happened, so she would have had a dog in the fight. Me thinks her ex-partner is a lot less financially well off than he is portraying. If there's one thing people need to teach their kids more, it's that marriage has relatively little to do with romance. It's security, particularly where children are involved. Yeah, some big life lessons to be had there, and I too hope that if I am ever faced with a situation like this, that I can do an intervention for someone instead of me banging my head against a wall and not helping them. It's so sad that it dragged out for this 25 years, and I think anyone with a conscience and a brain would have seen this coming. I feel absolutely terrible for OP, but there doesn't seem to be a good solution to this one. More so, this is just a warning to others in the future that if you commit to a relationship like this, as well as signing in writing that, hey, we're actually not married and I'm not going to go after any of his assets, this is the conclusion. Beware. Do not do that. I just feel so bad for OP, but I don't know what to do here. I hope everything goes well in the future, but it doesn't sound like it will. Our next post is by user DueDemand8301, titled, "Today I messed up by complaining to my wife about work." Throwaway account, and keeping it somewhat vague since we both have NDAs. So my wife and I work for the same multinational company, but in different departments at the same location. Like most couples, we talk about work, complain about co-workers, and workplace drama. I work in a quality control lab, and she handles clients and rubs elbows with the top brass of the company during the weekly meetings and such. She is also a very likable person and friends with them outside of work. I was complaining to her about my co-workers, how some of them don't run quality control checks or ignore them if they fail, and how some of them falsify or completely make up data just to make their job easier. At my company, any of those things are a fireable offense. I also mentioned to her that I had complained about it to people overseeing the lab, but nothing ever comes of it. Well, today, after her morning meeting, she was commiserating with her team. Like I said, some of them are the top brass in the company, and some of what I told her about the lab came up. I can't imagine how it came up, but it did, and apparently it didn't seem like it was that big of a deal in the moment. Near the end of the day, she was called by HR to schedule a meeting with HR and the company legal team. They are flying from the legal team from our company HQ to our location for a meeting to discuss any information she knows about the lab practices that I mentioned to her. I'm sweating bullets because I have no idea what this means for us. In the end, I know that I will be mentioned, so I'm going to take heat from someone, and I'm totally worried somebody, maybe me, will be fired. In the comments, here for the comments says, "Dude, I'm a quality engineer, and everything you mentioned is definitely not specific to your company. You see it everywhere because when something is non-conforming, it usually means action needs to be taken and possibly paperwork. So technicians find it easier to fudge the numbers to avoid the extra work. This is part of the reason why I hate my job. I'm going to assume you work in a highly regulated field, hence the attention from the legal team. But they will quickly find out why your wife knows what she does, get to you, and you'll have to provide evidence to your claims. Your quality manager is going to be asked to provide all inspection documentation, and if you're doing your job correctly, you have nothing to worry about. One thing to know is that people won't know why the legal team showed up. They won't rat you or your wife out." And OP says, "That's comforting. Not sure what you do, but it sounds like it needs to happen." No shit. Kudos for the company for paying attention to it. Unless the company does nothing about the practices but punishes OP and Mrs. OP for not coming forward sooner. Time to get a lawyer. Legal team from you means a legal team for me. Are you the one falsifying data? No? Then I doubt you'll be fired. If you reported it to higher-ups, I would start documenting what you said to who and when you said it. If you have it written in an email form, send those emails to your personal email address and save them as if your job depended on it, because it might. OP says, "I'm a bit worried about retaliation for being the one to say something. I definitely don't falsify results. If I ran a company, I would be happy that someone spoke up. What grounds can they fire you on? Telling the truth? But I am not a company owner, so really have no idea what will happen. I think employers can fire anyone for any reason, bogus or not. Maybe start polishing your resume and applying for other jobs just to be on the safe side. Good luck, hun. Wishing you the best. And now, onto the updates. It turns out that multiple people had reported the anonymous hotline for our company. The legal team met with my wife because she was the only person they knew had knowledge of the events. 1 month later, we both still have our jobs. No retaliation, which was my biggest fear, but nothing has changed. The people falsifying data are still employed and continuing their same practices. As mentioned previously, we are an international company, HQ in the US, but are managed locally for the most part. One comment asked if I worked at Boeing, which gave me endless laughter considering the headlines that month. We don't. However, we do work in an industry where people can be seriously harmed if the lab gives inaccurate results. I think the local upper management is keeping a lid on things because we are short-staffed and reluctant to fire skilled personnel. So I'm reporting infractions to my supervisor and documenting each incident. I plan to turn it over to HQ if nothing changes in the next week. Into the comments, Matt McMahon says, "Look into whistleblower protections. I believe your employment can be protected and a percentage of a potential government fine awarded to you." OP says, "I'll look into that. Last month I was worried about my job, but now it has become so egregious that I'd rather work in a research lab making a fraction. Someone else said contact the FBI. I thought that was silly at first, but maybe it's actually warranted." It doesn't necessarily need to be the FBI, I don't think. Just whatever regulatory agency would oversee the industry. FDA, maybe even OSHA, etc. Sounds like a third-party testing laboratory of some kind. OP says, "I believe so. I would assume companies do their own testing, then send their samples to us to confirm results." So what you're saying is we all need to avoid ... at all costs, so we're not seriously harmed. Thanks for the heads up. OP says, more along the lines that lower-level employees that are in direct contact with the materials could be harmed due to poor lab testing, but if a truck had an accident or, say, a rail car went off the tracks, you would need accurate chemical information to protect the population and environment. Peter 095837 says, quote, "We do work in an industry where people can be seriously harmed if the lab gives inaccurate results. The people falsifying data are still employed and continuing their same practices." Honestly, not a surprise. Pathetic how companies are not being responsible. Side note, taking Reddit comments as suggestions or advice isn't always the greatest. Yup. Legal was flown in to put the fear of God into OP and his wife to make sure they didn't talk to anyone else and kept it contained to just them and no one at family gatherings or the errant reporter, etc. Also, it's only been a month and there will absolutely be quiet retaliations. They are going to be passed over for promotions, and OP is probably on the top of the layoff list as soon as they are not short-staffed. Yeesh. As noble as OP might be trying to be, the company will try to protect itself. OP and wife need to find new jobs, stat. The company has proven that they are protecting themselves and will not be taking any responsibility. OP and his wife really need to find a new place, cause working in this place will not be beneficial for their sakes. I love working for companies like this. We will put other people's lives in danger, and if you speak out at all, you will be cut off. Ah yes, we do actually enjoy it when we cut corners and save money and put a lot of people's lives at risk unnecessarily. Very normal behavior from these companies. And you know, when these people frame it like that, I believe it. I believe that legal was sent in as a strong-arming tactic to bully OP and their wife for speaking up, because how dare they say anything about this company's operations? You love to see it, totally normal behavior. Feeling forced to cancel my wedding due to an awkward situation, and I'm heartbroken. Hi all, I'm currently in the middle of planning my June wedding, which has been in the works since autumn. About 6 years ago, I planned a wedding with an ex and hated every minute of it. Swore that I would never wedding plan again after that breakup. Fast forward, and I've met the love of my life, and we are so excited to get married. We have a simple dream wedding, and I finally convinced myself it would be worth the work to have a wedding day. Wedding planning hasn't been easy, but I grew to really love the things that we had in place. We booked a ceremony/cocktail hour venue with a gorgeous view of an urban gorge/waterfall, and then we would walk to the nearby minor league baseball stadium for our reception in an event space there. We've also booked a photographer, stylist, transportation, hotel, and honeymoon flights and accommodation based on this date. The date itself is a Wednesday, so things would be quiet and low-key. We only invited 30 people. This week, the baseball stadium announced the promotional theme for the night of our wedding reception is Pride Night. As a bisexual person myself, I love how much my community embraces the LGBTQ community and that we have a Pride Night at the baseball stadium. I've been an enthusiastic attendee in the past. However, this is not a night that I would have chosen to have my heteronormative wedding celebration at the ballpark. I feel that it would be disrespectful to the community to show up in my white dress with my groom and my wedding party. I don't want to make spectators feel uncomfortable, and I also don't want to feel like I have to tamper down my own wedding day to be respectful of this event. I dreamed of taking pictures in the stands and having my whole party walk to the stadium with flowers and decor for fun photos. I feel like these public celebrations will make me feel imposing or awkward now. The baseball stadium has offered to change our contracted date, but obviously it would require a lot of work to move all my other vendors and arrangements. I could also plan a different reception that day, but a baseball wedding was my dream from the start, and I worry that I'd be more heartbroken doing something else that day. Not to mention, both these options require a lot of extra work from me that I don't want to add to my plate. The other option would be to elope, of course, but I'm heartbroken that I'd have to give up my wedding day and professional photos over this. I can't believe I put in all this effort and money into a day just to be put in a difficult position where I have to choose between respecting a community and having my dream wedding. I feel so sad and discouraged. Any advice or opinions would be appreciated. Throwaway account in case this is controversial. In the comments, But I'm Stephanie says, I honestly don't think anyone is going to notice or care about what is happening in a party in one box. Wedding planning is so frickin' hard and detail-oriented, but honestly, innocent bystanders really don't care about your wedding. It's not like they limit admission that day to LGBTQIA+. Go on with your bad self, enjoy your day, and be proud that you found love in this terrible world. Right? People will probably see the wedding party and will be like, "Aw, look, they just got married, and she looks so pretty." And that will be the extent. I don't think anyone's going to be offended or thinking poorly of you. It's not like y'all chose the theme. This is less of a big deal than you think. I go to a lot of theme games, and while the theme is clear, there are plenty of people who go just to go and don't know anything about the theme. It's not like you're going there to shout homophobic remarks. I think it'll be fine. I don't mean to be insensitive, but I don't really understand why having a heteronormative wedding would be disrespectful to the LGBTQ community. I'm pretty sure the people in the community know that there are other people in the world who are not LGBTQ. A gay couple I know had a wonderful wedding, and both brides wore white dresses. I apologize for missing something, but I just have the event as planned. Maybe a nice gesture like a table outside your private area with free rainbow cookies and a sign that says, "As we celebrate our special day, we hope you enjoy celebrating yours," or something. A wedding is such a joyful event. I just don't see it as an intrusion. I feel the same way. It's different when a bachelorette party invades a gay club or a drag brunch and tries to become the center of attention, but this is not that. Exciting Blueberry 74 says, I'm trying to understand what the issue is. Do you live in a community where gay marriage isn't legal? And OP says, no, gay marriage is legal, but in light of a history of being denied that right, it feels awkward to celebrate my straight wedding at a night dedicated to celebrating that community. Yeah, I can see where OP's concerns are here, but like people have said before, it really isn't an issue. It's not like the people next door are going to be like, you're bi and you're getting married to a straight man? How dare you on this glorious LGBTQ day? You literally planned this wedding to spit in our faces. How dare you? I think that thought process is a bit of a stretch. I think everything's going to be alright, and I do think that OP is really just overthinking this one. I agree with the commenter that says just maybe leave something out as a token of appreciation that says celebrate my amazing day with me. Because I'm sure everything is going to be okay, and they will be more than happy for you, OP. And now, onto the update. Thank you to everyone who read and commented on my post yesterday about how the baseball stadium I'm hosting my reception at announced our wedding date is Pride Night. After a lot of heartfelt reflection, we have decided to continue planning our wedding for that day and joyfully accept the coincidence. I also want to apologize if anyone felt my reaction to this news was homophobic or bigoted. I truly felt that I was coming from a place of concern for the community, but realized that it was from a deeply rooted internal conflict surrounding my own bisexual identity. I wanted to especially thank those who brought bi erasure to my attention. This was a layer of my emotional reaction that I wasn't aware of at first. It's not that I wasn't aware of the issue, or that I didn't feel I was a part of the LGBTQA+ community before, but I hadn't realized how my own identity felt compromised by marrying someone of the opposite gender at a Pride event. I am working on embracing this, and I'm planning on adding some purple, blue, and pink to my outfit for the day. Ultimately, I'm excited that I get to marry the person that I love on the day that we picked, regardless of what other celebrations are occurring that day. I think this will add a fun element to our day that will make for an even better night of celebrating the love that we've found. I'm especially grateful for this opportunity to grow in my bisexual identity and celebrate that my wedding isn't straight, regardless of how it appears on the outside. And that's beautiful too. In the comments, the dim side says, "Glad things are working out. I'm also marrying someone who's of the opposite sex of me, and I have friends in a similar position. One couple, male and female, are both bi. I think it's great that you're working on feeling more comfortable with everything, and that you're moving forward as planned with the wedding." Quotes, "I truly felt that I was coming from a place of concern for the community, but realized that it was from a deeply rooted internal conflict surrounding my own bisexual identity. OP isn't the first, and won't be the last to experience this, unfortunately. I'm bi, and my boyfriend is bi, but together we're straight passing. So for us, it really feels like we aren't allowed to claim being bi, I guess. Like, I feel like a fraud for saying I am because I'm with a dude. I don't know, it's weird. Passing privilege is a double-edged sword. We're able to pass and avoid the hates, but also not included in our community or seen for our full selves. I always felt this when dating men. You still heard the hate more and felt disconnected from the community, but also received a lot less hate and could date with a lot less fear. But now as someone in a committed same-sex relationship, I still feel disconnected from my community. I'm femme, so I'm often assumed to be hetero. If I'm with my partner, everyone always assumes that I'm a lesbian, and it becomes awkward trying to correct that. Sometimes I just feel like I can't win. Everything is still so binary. I just wish people stopped assuming all the time. I get this. I have friends that I came out to as bi before I came out to anyone else, but when I started dating my girlfriend 2 years ago, they started exclusively referring to me as a lesbian, even when I try to explain that I'm not. I've just kind of given up at this point, honestly. It is what it is. It sucks because that fear of imposing on a Pride event by having a straight wedding, even though she's not straight, probably does stem from judgment within the community itself at some point in her life. Yes, it's internalized issues for sure, but she learned it from somewhere else. Her fear was valid in a way because there are plenty of people within the LGBTQ+ community who, if they met her face to face, would give her shit about being a bi woman who married a man. Glad she came to a conclusion she was happy with. It's the best part of bi erasure. You get it from both sides. Internal conflicts with sexuality can be tough, and it's not easy to be accepting when conflicts are hitting hard. As someone who is bisexual, I can understand, and I feel for what OP is going through. This was a nice read. Nothing insane or bad. I wish the wedding goes well. Our next post is by user A Monster in the Kitchen, titled, Me, 25 female, with my boyfriend, 27 male's mum. Asked her to teach me some recipes, and shit hit the fan. Hey all, I'm at a bit of a loss right now. My boyfriend Dan and I have been together for a little over 2 years. No relationship is perfect, but ours is basically as good as it can be. Little conflict, maximum happiness, everything is wonderful, yada yada yada. My family adores him. His dad seems to like me just fine, but for some reason, his mum Carol has never been too fond of me. I don't push too hard. I'm really respectful whenever I'm around her. I bring her gifts for birthdays and holidays. She's never given me one, not that I care. It's just kind of strange since I've been around for a while. Always try and help when I can, etc. And yet, she's always been fairly cold to me. Not outright rude and terrible, just cold. I kind of wrote it off, figuring that she's just a tough nut to crack. Anyway, my boyfriend and I recently finished our master's degrees, and were feeling bored with our jobs and figured, what the hell, let's move to a different country. When we told the families, everyone was ecstatic for us, except Dan's mum, which wasn't really surprising. We both have jobs lined up, so it's not like we'll be bumming around or anything. Not that there is anything wrong with traveling, I'm a huge advocate. So the only reason she's not on board with it is because Dan won't be living 25 miles away from her anymore, even though it's a great opportunity for the both of us and something he's been wanting to do for a while. We leave in a few weeks, so we've been trying to spend time with them as much as we can. Dan knows about how his mum treats me, and even though she's not rude to me, he's said that he's talked to her about whether or not she likes me, to which she'll reply, "She's fine, I'm perfectly nice to her." So like I said, she's not terrible, she's just not great. To the point where I'd never ask Dan to bash her anything. It just makes me sad because I want to be close with his family because they mean a lot to me. So I've been making some efforts to hang out with her. Anyway, we were over at his mum's house for dinner this weekend, and I offered to help her in the kitchen, to which she reluctantly obliged. Now, she's a decent cook, but in no way is she an amazing chef or anything. She never mentions secret recipes or anything like that, but I thought that it would be a nice gesture to ask her to teach me some of her recipes. So while I was chopping onions, I said, "Hey Carol, I was wondering if you would teach me some of your recipes. Dan loves your cooking, and I would love to cook for him when we're abroad to remind him of home since I know he'll miss your cooking." Then she stopped and walked out of the room. It was super awkward. So I waited around a bit, and when she finally came back in, she started yelling at me about how out of line I was. She was saying stuff like, "How dare you? You think you can replace me?" And all this crazy stuff. I was completely shocked and dumbfounded. I immediately walked out and told Dan, who was heading into the kitchen to see what the commotion was about, that I would be leaving. He told me to wait in the car because he was really confused. I sat there for 3 minutes when he came out apologizing, saying his mum was completely in the wrong, so we left. So here I am, a few days later, confused as hell. I'm happy that Dan stuck up for me, but this situation is so ridiculous, I have no idea where to go from here. He's currently not speaking to his mum, but has received texts from his dad apologizing and chalking his mum's freak out due to the stress of Dan leaving soon. I don't want to be the reason he severs his relationship or anything, but I also feel pretty disrespected over something so silly. Any advice on how to handle this? In the comments, Defiancy says, "She feels threatened that you are replacing her as the woman in Dan's life. That's why she reacted the way she did when you asked about the recipes. This is something she has to deal with on her own, because she seems like a very overprotective mother that hasn't grasped the concept that her son is an adult." OP replies, "Thanks for your response. I totally get that she may feel threatened that I'm taking her son away, but I want the opposite. I think that's why I'm so hurt. The last thing I want to do is pull him away from his family, and in an effort to get closer to her, she pushed me away and accused me of something ridiculous. You want her to be a different person than she is. She's not going to be the person that you want her to be. This is who she is. Inappropriately attached to her son and prone to lashing out when she feels like someone might be more important to him than her. Monitor this situation carefully. How your boyfriend treats this going forward is going to be key to your relationship. You can deal with this situation if he's 100% on your side about her inappropriate behavior and shuts her down hard. You can't if a week from now he's waffling about how she didn't really mean it and she's always been like that, and insert reason here why mummy needs to be coddled. r/justnomother-in-law is full of these stories of loony mums who have unhealthy relationships with their sons. For the most part, they are really funny stories. How dare you? You think you can replace me? This, however, is disturbing. I mean, he's 27 years old already. At least Dan stood up for you right away. Who's been here since the Just No Mother-in-Law days back in 2020? Let's go. OP replies, "It's crazy to me that Dan always mentioned she was overbearing, but not anything like this. Dan is super independent and just about as much of a mama's boy as any normal guy who loves his mother. So this whole possessive thing came out of nowhere. It even freaked Dan out a little bit. But yeah, he's a great guy. Thanks for your response." I also have to give you props for walking right out of the house when someone tramples on you like that. Way to go. It's so easy to be shocked by the yelling, to think you did something wrong, or that you must respect a parent, or try not to make waves, or just get along with the family. But your first instinct was to walk right out, the absolute correct response when someone tries to shit on you. I'm in awe. It sounds like Dan's mum is having an episode of combination empty nest syndrome and massive jealousy. She feels like you are taking her son away, that she's losing him, and that you are trying to replace her. Unfortunately, there isn't much that you can do. Dan's response was appropriate, and should this sever some ties, it is not your fault. If you really want to, you can try to reach out to Carol in a non-confrontational way. Shoot her a thoughtfully worded email, but I would avoid apologizing, as you haven't done anything wrong. Maybe something like, "Carol, I wanted to reach out to you to discuss what happened the other night. It was not my intention to upset you or make you feel like you were being replaced. We are both going to miss you and Dan's dad very much when we're abroad, and I was hoping to find a way to feel closer to you. I love Dan, and being able to have a relationship with you is important to me because I know how important you are to him." OP says, "This is a great idea. Thanks for taking the time to type that out for me. I tried to do this earlier, but my thoughts were still kind of jumbled, so it was hard for me to articulate something without being slightly combative." NME Vivid says, "Sorry I'm a little late to the show. That being said, my mother treated my wife the exact same way. No matter how many times I told her to knock it off, she was continually an asshat to her. Finally, I just laid it out for her by saying, look, you have two options. 1, keep continuing to act like a beard towards my wife, and we will cut you out of our lives completely, or 2, accept the fact that I'm a grown-ass man and that you are gaining a daughter, not losing a son." Thankfully, she chose option 2. This, by the way, all took place at about year 2.5 in our marriage. So far, she's pulled her head out and has been really great to my wife. I wish you nothing but the best, but it needs to be him talking to his mum about her attitude towards you. Yeah, honestly, big agree with that one. But you'll see in the r/justnomother-in-law subreddits a bunch of people that just will never stand up to their mums like that. Just some primal instinct within them. It's like, I have no spine, and I will not confront my mother. I know that my mother won't listen to my partner, but it's not my job to change her. I know what she's like. And it really sucks to read so many marriages and relationships just spiral out of control because of an overly controlling mother like that. Someone that's just insane. Like, what a batshit crazy reaction to be like, hey, this is a bonding moment right now. I'd love to learn some secret recipes that you've got that your son loves so that I can share a connection with you and we can grow as a family. And she's like, and I took that personally. Get out of my house. How dare you threaten me like that? Not even threatening me with a good time. That's a terrible time in my point of view. I don't know what kind of fight, flight, or freeze response I would have in a situation like that. But yeah, walking away from that and not being a part of it is definitely the way to go. And now, on to the updates. Hello again, it's me, the monster in the kitchen. By the way, my username referred to me. I don't think she's a monster. I just felt like it was funny referring to myself as the monster. Probably should have clarified that. Thank you so much for all your responses. I logged out and came back to an inbox swarming with support, advice, clarification, etc. I really appreciate the time you all took to respond to my issue. It means a lot, internet strangers. Anyway, I'm happy to say that this is a positive update. I definitely sympathized with her because I know that it must be scary to have your only child. Yes, Dan is an only child, as a lot of you guessed. How astute of you, Reddit. Pulled away by another woman, even though we have completely different relationships. But regardless, it doesn't excuse what she did. So I let Dan initially reach out to her, to which I followed up later. Dan gave her a call and was very nice yet firm with her about how she treated me. Carol responded by saying that she was really embarrassed and sorry, and that she felt terrible and wanted to give each of us some time to cool off before reaching out. I initially told Dan that I wanted to send her an email based off of what user Vanity Pride Lust had drafted, so he told her that I would reach out when I was ready because I really wanted to frame the conversation rather than have her feel like complete crap for her outburst. So I sent her a text later in the evening and we met for breakfast this morning. She was so apologetic and cried, and I said that although it did hurt me, that I understand where she's coming from and am in no way trying to replace her. I respect her a lot because she raised my literal dream man. So even though we may not be best friends, she's done a lot of things right. We hung out for a bit, ended things wonderfully with a redo invitation to cook dinner together this weekend, her recipes, and hugged goodbye. All is right in the world. Thanks again for offering insight and perspective. Y'all are the best. And P.S. Dan is the best. Can't wait to lock that shit down. Any Redditors in Australia, see you soon. Hey, that's me. In the comments, Jen Toon says, "You're a great partner. That is the sweetest thing that I've read on this sub. Thanks for the post." OP replies with a smiley face. Another little ego boost? If Carol is reacting this strongly to you as a potential threat, it's because you're the first woman in Dan's life that he's ever loved so much or been so serious about. She's never had to process these feelings before because no other woman has ever meant as much to him as you do, and she knows it. That's pretty strong evidence that you're the one. Yee, I have romantic goosebumps. Good job being the grown-up in this situation. I can't imagine that I would be able to forgive her crazy so quickly. OP says, pick your battles, I suppose. I love Dan enough to swallow my pride a little, and she's shown genuine emotion, so I figured that it was for the best. Plus, we'll be gone soon enough. Just kidding. Kind of. Regardless, I'm just glad that everyone is at peace. From your posts, I don't think that you swallowed your pride at all. In fact, quite the opposite. You showed yourself to be a big enough person to put aside your hurt feelings, to empathize with her as she was overwhelmed with her feelings. We are all people. We are all going to have our moments where we don't handle our feelings right. You handled yourself with grace and proved yourself to be a caring and sensitive person, which are all characteristics to be proud of. What is this honest apology, open communication, and proper respect for boundaries and areas of influence? That's not the tea that I come here for. Actually, this was handled well by all concerned, eventually. If this communication and empathy catches on, where will we get our drama? I love the drama, but it's gobsmacking how often problems could be solved if people just talk to each other. Let's wait a few years. We have no idea where Grandma is willing to go. There is an important lesson here. The boyfriend immediately responded and shut his mother down when she stepped out of line. None of this, "I don't like being in the middle" garbage that wishy-washy partners pull when they refuse to appropriately handle their own families. The sooner you stop it, the less hurt feelings and lingering resentments to permanently poison in-law relationships. Not only stepped in when mum was out of line, but was also consistent in doing so. Some stories it feels like the man and woman with the toxic parents expect like a medal and mind-blowing sex just because they stepped up once. And even then it's like the bare minimum because they continue to let it happen unchecked. Yeah, because a lot of people are conditioned to do that and then spineless, even when it comes to their partner, who should be the most important person in their life. This story just goes to show that the faster you put out that fire and you show that you are serious about it, the easier these conflicts can be resolved. Whether that's the way that this story resolved in the way that it did, or you cutting that person off completely straight away. I'm sure there are middle grounds for these situations as well, but when you're dealing with someone that is chaotic, like that mother-in-law in the story, there's usually only those two paths to go down. With all that said though, I'm very much glad that things worked themselves out, and I really hope that Grandma didn't make her way down to Australia here. We have enough problems as is, okay? Our next post is by user I Want It That Way 6, titled, "My 5-year-old gets taken out of class every day, but not sure why. My son recently informed me that just about every day, some type of aid lady takes him from the class and brings him to a different room with games, balls, scooters, other sensory type equipment. He says they play things like Uno or Mother May I. Sometimes they ride the little scooters down the hallway, other times he does exercises like jumps and stuff. I guess I'm just surprised that his teacher never told me any of this, not in an email or parent-teacher conference. I was just wondering, does anyone here know why this happens? I feel like I'm not doing something right at home for them to have to go out of their way and take him out of class. Apparently, it's only him, and 2 boys that get taken out of the class do this. He is not special ed or diagnosed with anything. I will obviously ask his teacher, but I wanted to know if anyone else had this in their school. I know growing up that I had nothing like this in elementary school, so I'm so confused." In the comments, Jean's Hairy Mole said, "They should have discussed this with you. Having said that, it seems cool that they're trying to accommodate your high-energy child instead of punishing him." And OP replies, "Yeah, I agree. I love his school, and his teacher is amazing. Well, I sent her an email because I'm curious. Also, I feel bad, like there's something that I'm not doing at home with him that could help. He's in karate and is very high energy, limited screen time, and I try to get him outside as much as possible. At that age, their little bodies are telling them to move because that's how their bodies build muscle and grow. Have you had him tested for an attention deficit disorder? My sister was like this and didn't really change until she got therapy for it. She tried meds, but didn't like them. They taught her coping skills instead." OP replies, "No, wasn't even on my radar to be honest. I feel like half the comments are telling me to get him tested ASAP, and the other are saying that it's normal 5-year-old boy behavior. It might be both. One does not exclude the other. He could very well be ADHD, but that doesn't mean that some aspect isn't regular like little boy energy. But keep in mind, there are other little boys with little boy energy that apparently do not need to be taken out of the classroom. That indicates that your kiddo just might need a little extra support. Never, ever, ever, ever hurts to get them tested, and testing at this age is really just a play session. You have literally nothing to lose." Scorp128 says, "If your child was disrupting the learning of others, or being disruptive in the classroom, the teacher would have told you. If the teacher has not mentioned getting your child tested for ADHD, it is probably not something to worry about. Just something to keep in the back of your mind, not something that has to be acted on ASAP. Do have a conversation with the teacher, but this sounds like the teacher realizes your child is high energy and is giving the appropriate opportunities to your child so their energy levels do not become an issue. Does this school follow a Montessori program?" OP replies, "Not Montessori, just public elementary. And yeah, that's what I figured. If this was a problem, I would have been notified by now. I guess they haven't told me because it's not a big deal, and that they had me wondering if this was a thing now that all public schools did. He is definitely high energy though, so I'm grateful they accommodate for him and not punish him for it." OP said this, and a lot of people replied that it sounded like occupational therapy. OP says, "Yes, he is very high energy. Also recently discovered during carpet time, he, as well as the other 2 boys, as I mentioned above, they have to sit in these special chairs while all the other children sit on the floor. They almost look like a rocking sled or something. I'm almost wondering if I should get him tested for ADHD." And now, onto the update. Sorry, I don't know how to link to my post from yesterday, which is what I'm referencing, but I got a lot of responses asking me to update once I emailed his teacher. It's not occupational therapy, which is what some people here thought, but I was clarified that I would have had to consent if that was the case. So basically, the school has built-in universal supports for all children. Some of the tools they use for my son in particular is that rocking chair that he sits in at circle time and sensory breaks being done by a para. He doesn't go every day like I was originally led to believe, but usually 3 to 4 times a week, pretty much when they have the extra para available to help. This is also why his teacher didn't formally tell me, because she said that it wasn't a certainty that he'd even be able to go every day. Also because it's just part of their tools they implement for students who they feel need it. It's not like an IEP plan. He doesn't get taken out of class during any type of important instruction time, it's during snack rest time. I am very grateful for his teacher. She said my son is very funny and makes her laugh all the time. He just has lots of extra energy and is really benefiting from this kind of reset time. She didn't mention anything about ADHD in her reply email and didn't mention that he's causing any disruption to the rest of the class. In the comments, the Kitten Patrol says, I'm having flashbacks to a parent crying when I talk to them about figuring out together how to productively manage their 4th grade kid's energy, fidgeting/ADHD. I was apparently the first teacher ever to frame it as something to work through rather than, your kid's a problem. I was almost certain that it was ADHD, not something I have myself, and Mum confirmed without me having to ask. In general, I apparently disappointed a lot of parents when I had to tell them no, I just taught these summer reading classes while getting my PhD, they couldn't transfer to my non-existent school. I'd let kids stand while they worked, I introduced a bunch of parents to fidget cubes. In general, being a teacher with ADHD and anxiety, I worked to try to meet students where they were. Reading about a school having built-in accommodations like this, especially the chairs for students who can't sit still, I love it so much. I do agree Mum should have been told, but I just love so much that these high-energy kids aren't just being treated like bad kids. I agree she should have been told, but part of me feels like it's because they don't view it as him being a nuisance, they just try to do what works best for him with no stigma. Hence, no talk felt required. A cool way of communicating it with the parents would be, at school we work to find what tools our learners need to be thriving. These are some of the tools that student finds helpful. And then parents can implement those things at home too, and have support learning themselves that needing a break is okay, fidgeting can be helpful, etc. Especially since the teachers learn tools that a parent rarely gets the chance to learn. It gives the parent a chance to learn specific things about their child and how to help them without having to take the entire course on it. Wow, his teacher is a rock star, and OP plus son are lucky to have them. I wish this was more standard. Teachers need to be paid more in general. As a teacher, I also wish this was more standard. I begged for 2 of my students to have access to my school's sensory room this year, grade 2. Both denied. Not for lacking the desire to give them access, but because we simply don't have the staff. So frustrating. Am I the asshole here for staging an intervention and calling my daughter delusional over a name? I, 50+ male, have a daughter, 26 female. She's currently a TikTok influencer and pregnant with a boy. She is obsessed with this influencing thing, everything about the numbers. Her husband has been evicted to the attic because he ruins her aesthetic that is for the videos. He isn't allowed to bring his items or clothes outside of it, and whenever he as much as forgets a cup on the table, she will scream. My wife and I tried to guide her into therapy and have been paying for the appointments, but we do not know if she's actually been going. And now she's pregnant, which means it isn't just her and my son-in-law's problem, it is also a problem for my grandson. She wants no toys in the house for similar reasons and has banned us from buying any. She doesn't want colorful baby clothes because the baby will stand out on her videos too much. And then there is the name. Robin Marvey Linter. Marvey Linter. I don't know how you say that one, but hey, pop off, queen. While I appreciate that the two middle names are comprised of the names of both sets of grandparents, Marvin and Lee, Lynn and Peter, the amalgams are awful. And Robin is her spelling of Robin because she doesn't want her son to be a sidekick, whatever that means. She doesn't care that he'll get bullied, that his name will be mispronounced, misspelled, and a nightmare on any official capacity, that he will grow to be an adult with the name instead of staying as a baby. It was the last straw. So I staged an intervention after regular talking didn't work. I contacted everyone we both know, and even posted on Reddit to try to convince her that it's an effing horrible idea, and that she needs to think of more than what will look nice for her TikToks or get her more views. She will have a child, and that child's needs and well-being should be a priority. Naming him a ridiculous word salad and depriving him of toys and joy is not an environment suitable for a child. She called me an asshole, and I called her delusional in return. I really don't think that I'm the asshole here, but my wife's family seems to think that I overreacted since it's just a name. But if she's willing to do all of this just for stupid views on an app, what else is she going to do to this child for the sake of her influencing? Am I the asshole here? Edit. Her and her husband have separated twice in the past, but always end up together again. They keep breaking up and rekindling over and over again. They had an impromptu marriage on Valentine's Day to heal their relationship, as they now have a child on the way. The TikTok thing has been a frequent source of pain for them. In the comments, the Purple Goat says, "Not the asshole. This lady is being borderline abusive to her husband. How abusive is she going to be to her child? Her husband probably can't afford a divorce anyway. Who the hell can afford 2 households these days? So I think staging the intervention is the right thing to do. Now, nothing she's doing is illegal, but it definitely is wrong. All over stupid TikTok? She needs to wake up and join the real world before she gets even worse." OP says he can afford a divorce, but they've been together since secondary school, and he gets along well with our family. One of my sons was his best man, and I think he might be afraid that we will hate him for divorcing her. I'll talk to him about it when he gets out of work. Honestly, I'd be having words about divorce and getting custody with your full support. Had a friend whose ex-in-laws liked her better than their son. Divorcing the spouse, but keeping the in-laws can be done. Call the child Robbie. If questioned, tell her you can't remember the entire name and/or spelling. Poor kid. Also, the son-in-law joking about divorce already has one foot out the door. He won't stick around any more than a couple of years. Require receipts from her doctor or simply pay the doctor's office directly. Good luck to you, OP. OP replies, "The worst thing is that they've only been married for some days, and he's clearly regretting it. Everything about this is so extreme. They've been together forever, but in a very on and off way. If it has only been for a few days, it might be worth looking into annulment." OP says, "That's a good point. They married on Valentine's Day. I forgot that annulment exists. If he thinks breaking up is the best choice, I'll bring it up to him. Right now it seems like he wants it to work, just doesn't know how. Definitely worth mentioning it to him so he knows his options and can make an exit strategy if need be. God forbid he ruins her aesthetic even more." Not the asshole. This behavior needs to be halted yesterday. What'll happen when the child makes a mess? What'll happen when they cry for toys and attention? Will she lock the child in a grey, aesthetic, soundproof room so they don't mess up her videos? What'll happen when her traumatized child doesn't perform for the camera how she wants? This sounds like the origin story for a severely developmentally stunted kid locked in a room, deprived of parental affection. As opposed to me, I am not locked in a grey aesthetic soundproof booth. That does not sound like me. OP replies, "That is exactly what my concern is, and why I wanted to stage the intervention." Yeah, honestly, OP, I don't think that marriage is going to last, because if he stays in it, he's going to get continually abused. She's probably going to continue to ramp up her insanity. It's just not good for either parent here. Best case scenario I can see happening is that you guys convince her to go to therapy and she snaps out of it. But I don't know, it doesn't seem realistic to me. Kind of seems like TikTok is her full-time grind, and she's gonna do anything for that money and that attention. Big number, go up. Not the asshole here for staging the intervention, and I really do hope that it works. And now, onto the update. This is a bit anticlimactic. We had a family meeting after my daughter's husband got out of work and presented her the Reddit threads, as well as some stories that people shared in the comments. She was reading the comments for about an hour while they kept pouring in, and it overwhelmed her. Didn't help that I kept responding to comments during this time, which was stupid and inconsiderate of me. I did apologize to her, but she doesn't have it in her to forgive me at this moment. At first, she was very quiet. Before admitting that she needed help, she said that she was struggling with feeling fulfilled after her work was made remote back in the original lockdown and needed more things to do that separated work from home. It's where the influencing came in. The numbers going up gave her the same reward that work used to, and she wanted to replicate it with a mummy blog as her other one stagnated. Her husband suggested that she picks up art again and offered to buy her art supplies. She agreed. Turns out that a lot of you were right, and the names were inspired by the Twilights. She wanted to honor the grandparents, which was nice, but couldn't think of any names that fit. She also wanted a bird name as the first name, but didn't want a plain robin. One of my sons suggested the name Adler, as well as Arnie, Arvid, and Ari from my sister-in-law's culture, and she agreed to one of them. I'm not going to reveal the new middle name for freshly discovered privacy reasons, but some of the comments in the tragedy side gave her good ideas. My daughter seems so defeated now, but says it's because she didn't realize how much the numbers on her social media was taking her over. She agreed to delete the mummy blog at her husband's request, and she said that she will limit her personal account to just the makeup and fashion content she used to do. Time will see how this goes. My son-in-law is still apprehensive, as he's had to have been on eggshells in their home and isn't happy about TikTok at all with her past behavior. He says he wants this to work, which is why he married her despite everything, but that if she doesn't actually go to the therapy that my wife and I paid for, he's going to look at options for leaving. He wants to say to one of the comments that he isn't a wet blanket, but was just trying to keep his wife healthy for the sake of their unborn child. Some of the comments regarding how creeps use mummy blogs as material for their unsavory desires also was a wake-up call for all of us, and none of us will post photos or information relating to our family children online. Wife is taking her shopping for baby clothes sometimes next week, and she managed to convince her that toys are not clutter, but necessary for kids. She reminded my daughter of her own favorite toys and how upset she was when one of them disappeared. So while I was an asshole, it helped my daughter a little bit. Reddit helped a lot more, and I would like to thank you for indulging me in this. In the comments, Bathroom Stall Ghost says, I think it would be best to continue to talk about good childhood memories from you and your wife, both about your daughter's childhood and yours. When the baby comes, do not offer to take the baby. Instead, bring a home-cooked meal over occasionally, or tell all three to go nap while you wash dishes or something. Anything to give them support without making them feel like you are barging in. I think everything will end up okay with this. OP replies, thank you. This essentially is what one of my son's friends suggested as well. We're going to do our best to support them. My sister-in-law's family also offered to do the same. A happy ending of sorts. I can only wish your daughter the best going forward. The lockdowns and subsequent forced working from home negatively affected the mental health and perspectives of many people, myself included. Glad to hear. It sounded like some sort of addiction. Social media is made that way. It's called gamification. You get an upvote, you get a kick out of it. I hope therapy can sort that out. OP replies, I had a Twitter addiction for a while, but at least it was just doom scrolling, as my youngest called it, so I understand it entirely. We'll help her as much as we can. Was your son-in-law finally able to move out of the attic? He should be able to enjoy his own home, like you said. Your daughter was incredibly abusive to him. Yes, forcing him to live in the attic and not enjoy his own home, or she would scream at him, is abuse. She Cinderella'd him. Has she apologized to him for what she did? Is she remorseful? OP says, They were arguing about where his stuff should be while I was typing this update. He collects and tinkers with old electronics, and she said she doesn't want them in the main parts of the house because they're ugly and take a lot of space. He wasn't directly evicted, but it's where he spent most of his time, because it's where his belongings were. My wife, the beautiful angel that she is, recommended that they turn the guest room into his man cave or convert the garage as it isn't in use due to convenience. They went back home, so I'm not sure if they've come to a conclusion now. I'm glad to hear that she's doing better. I think it's also important for her to know that bright colors and playtime with toys is very important for child development. Like, everyone well-versed in child development and psychology will tell you this. I hope your wife informed her about this when talking about toys. OP replies, my wife is a primary school teacher, which is why she was able to get through to our daughter regarding child development. Both of us reiterated how important toys are and that it's a mandatory part of parenting. Quotes, I think he might be afraid that we will hate him for divorcing her. How do you even bring this up? It's okay if you want to divorce our daughter. We think she's terrible too. That's so insane. I'm kind of tentative on this one. It doesn't seem like the most positive, but also not the most negative update that there has been in the history of these stories. I'm just glad that she recognizes and accepts the fact that she has a problem. I wonder what happened within this intervention for her to get so pissed off at OP, because, I don't know, I'm not putting two and two together. Maybe you guys can? Like, sure, replying to comments while the intervention is happening is rude, but not so much so that the daughter is like, screw you guys, I'm going home. I accept I have a problem, but I'm also not talking to you because you piss me off. Hopefully this is one of those golden egg stories where the abuse slowly dies out because she realizes that she was being an asshole, but who knows? Good job though, OP, for doing right by your future grandkid. Our next post is by a deleted user, titled, Am I the asshole for taking my kids to go meet my husband's abusive father, even after he prohibited me from doing so? Oh boy. I, 42 female, and my husband, 42 male, Daryl, have 3 kids. 18 male, 13 female, and 9 female. We've been together since we were 15 and married since we were 18. I have never really had any contact with his father. He has always been distant with him and has made sure to keep me away as well. So I do not know much about his father personally, other than the few things that he has brought up only 1 or 2 times. He's mentioned that he hates his father and that he was an abusive asshole and that he would abuse him and his sister every day. His mother took her own life when he was 13 and has been in therapy since. So his relationship with his father is practically non-existent. All he has as a real family is his younger sister. My contact with his father had only been before we got married. Daryl has always tried to keep me as far away from him as possible. I've only interacted with him when I first met his family and when he graduated high school. When we got married at 18, he cut all contact with his father and prohibited me and our kids from ever contacting him or inviting him to anything. That included our weddings, kids' special days, and so on. They have never met their grandpa, and it has always bothered them. They have all met my sister-in-law, 40 female, and love her as family. They frequently ask for her and are very close. She has been to every main event and family gathering. I am not very close to her, but have maintained a good relationship. I asked her about her parents and how it was growing up, and she tried to evade the question and even started to get nervous. She refused to answer my question and changed the subject. Daryl never really told me much about it either, and has reacted the same way when our kids have asked him about his family. On Thanksgiving, we had a family dinner. My whole family attended. Of course, my sister-in-law attended too. Everyone got wasted and had a good time. That was until my youngest asked her if Grandpa was going to attend this year. My other kids jumped on the bandwagon and bombarded her with questions about him and why he was never here. She got overwhelmed and stormed out. My husband scolded them and went to make sure his sister was okay. When we got home, he told them to never bring him up again, to erase even the thought that Grandpa does not exist. This seemed to have lit a fire under all of them because to them it seemed like a mystery, a hidden character who they were dying to meet. Since then, they have hounded me about it. Mum, I want to meet Grandpa. Mum, why isn't Grandpa around when yours is? Why don't you invite Grandpa over? All I could ever tell them was that Dad did not get along with Grandpa and that Grandpa was mean to him. It didn't seem to shake their resolve to meet him. I have brought it up to my husband that his kids want to meet their grandpa. Maybe they should get to meet their grandpa at least once. They deserve it. He did not like the idea and told me to never bring up this subject again. He told me that they would never meet that man. He did not care about how much our kids wanted to meet him. He again prohibited me from ever contacting his father and let alone letting his kids meet him. My kids continued to hound me and begged me to visit Grandpa. I felt bad for them and thought that maybe just once they should meet him. They deserved at least one visit. I convinced myself that it was okay and eventually agreed to it. I told them that this would be our little secret and to not tell their father. Their faces lit up, and throughout the week, they would ask if I was taking them today or tomorrow. So I took them to their grandpa this upcoming weekend. I told my husband that we would be going to the mall and that we would be back late. When we got back home, my husband greeted us and had ordered takeout. His sister was there as well, chowing down. My husband and I went to the kitchen to get something to drink while his sister talked to my kids. I overheard her ask them how their day was and what they did. My youngest excitedly responded, "We got to meet and have ice cream with Grandpa." My husband dropped his cup and it shattered on the floor. I told him that I could explain, but he didn't give me the chance and told me not to say a word, that he will be going for a drive to think and that he will be back. I pleaded for him to hear me out, but he left. His sister was angry as well and followed, but before leaving, she asked me why on God's green earth would I take them to him. Now my kids are asking what happened, and I'm not sure what to say. So am I the asshole for taking my kids to go meet my husband's abusive father? In the comments, Variegated Jennifer says, "What in the F is wrong with you? You're the asshole. How dare you? Your husband suffered abuse at the hands of this man on a daily basis, and you knew that, but decided to walk your children into the hands of a known abuser anyway? No regard for him at all? I cannot even imagine what he's going through mentally right now. I feel horrible for him. It's like being abused all over again." Why doesn't she also hate her father-in-law over what he did to her husband? I wouldn't want anything to do with him. She seems to have zero empathy, and it's very concerning. It's a complete betrayal of trust. I understand never having experienced abuse. She clearly hasn't, and I love that for her, but to not grasp the seriousness of the situation and pester the sister to answer uncomfortable questions, pester the husband, go behind his back with no regards for her children's safety, it makes me sick. Those kids are going to be so upset they hurt their father when they get mature enough to realize that the adult they trusted, OP, let them push their way into deeply hurting their own father because she wouldn't tell a 9-year-old no and stop asking. Like, what was the 9-year-old gonna do if she didn't let them meet the grandpa? Get in the car and drive to do it anyway? So, wait, and wait some more. You were told your husband's dad was abusive by both your husband and his sister. There was also a suicide that may or may not be linked to the abuse. Your husband has been in therapy since he was 13 about this, and you thought that you would take your own kids to potential danger? Bloody hell. What kind of person are you? Let alone wife or mum. You've probably shattered trust and could have just put your family in danger's way. Let me guess, the old man was charming and lovely. That's what abusive people do. Act one way and then show their true colors behind closed doors. Yep, gotta hand them that one, OP. You really did a bad thing there. Oh my god. I just don't know what's going through your mind that allows you to think that, you know what, all these people with their trauma and really not wanting to talk about it and, for the sake of everyone else, keeping this man away because he's dangerous. What's the harm if I put our little kids over there, I'm sure he won't abuse them. I'll just lie to my husband. I'll just do things without asking him. I'm not going to respect our relationship. The fact that you thought this through so much and acted on those thoughts shows a complete and continuous lack of judgment. I am very much judging you for that one. What's wrong with you? You're the asshole. And now, on to the update. Hello everyone. Sorry for not responding and for not updating sooner. Life has gotten pretty hectic since I last posted. I want to start by admitting that I have always wanted to meet my husband's father and that I've brought up Grandpa to my kids more than a few times. I didn't want to admit it because I knew my husband's story and didn't want to make it seem like I didn't care about how he or his sister felt. I felt it unfair that I was being kept away from his father, and I know that it sounds awful, but I've always wanted to have some kind of relationship with his father. After all, he's still family. I just didn't want to admit that I was wrong for feeling that way. I did use my kids as an excuse and used them to justify my feelings and actions. They did want to meet their grandpa and were always curious about him, so I went and took advantage of it. My family does know the situation, as they noticed that my husband was not staying at home. I've gotten cussed at and shunned for my decision. I'm doing what I can to rebuild my relationship with my husband. He accepted my apology, but told me he would still be staying with his sister until he felt ready to come back home, until he got over my betrayal of his trust. I have read your comments, and you guys are right. My kids do deserve to know the whole truth about their grandpa and why he never wanted or allowed him to be around. So I sat them all down, yes, even my youngest, and explained to them. I told them that they did nothing wrong and that I was the one to blame for everything. I shouldn't have pushed my cruel ambition onto them. I explained the reason Dad wasn't staying at home for the past few days. I believe it can be fixed. I'm not going to give up despite what you all say. My husband will come back, and we will be a family again. I will update whenever I can, and answer any comments whenever I have the chance to. In the comments, Dim Tim from Q says, "The lengths that people such as yourself go to excuse their own shitty decisions, especially when the consequences turn around and bite them hard, is amazing to watch. If your husband was here, I would happily advise him never to trust a single word you say ever again. You as a person simply cannot be trusted. What an insanely horrible person you are. Oh, and yes, as everyone in your earlier post said, you are the asshole in every meaning of the word. May your upcoming divorce be quick and amicable." Quote, "After all, he's still family." Finally, I understand why OP was such an utter fool and profound asshole. She's one of those family people. Miss Pollyanna Tootsie Pie is completely oblivious to the fact that not all families are good, and sharing DNA with someone doesn't necessarily mean that you owe them anything. Losing her hubs is a tough way to learn this lesson, but better late than never, and frankly, she deserves it. Wow, you are an effing sociopath. What kind of sick mental state do you have to want to manipulate your children into begging to meet your life partner's abuser because you're curious and you think you deserve it? I would never forgive you if I was your husband. You're disgusting. You want to be a family again? How do you propose to do that when he will never trust you again? You are well beyond the asshole on this. Not sure if it's psychopathy is set above or stupidity on an epic scale. It is so outlandish, it's hard to imagine that it's not made up. I had an ex-fiancé like OP. He reached out to my father during our time together and offered my father that he would convince me to visit and have a father-daughter relationship with my father, whom I was no contact with for more than a decade at the time. My father agreed, because of course he would. Ex-fiancé came home beaming with pride that he was certain that my father was not that bad that I made him look like, and that he fixed my relationship with my father, and now I would not be so broken anymore. Did I already mention that he's an ex-fiancé? Quotes, "I believe it can be fixed. I'm not going to give up despite what you all say. My husband will come back, and we will be a happy family again." You crossed some pretty serious boundaries. You sound like a narcissist who only considers herself and not how choices made will affect others. You did a shitty thing to your husband and his sister by violating their trust. And you did a shitty thing to your kids by putting them in the middle and using them as an excuse for your actions. You are still the asshole. You should consider therapy. The 18 and 13-year-old are old enough to be told their granddad is a piece of shit, maybe a bit softer for the 9-year-old, but still old enough to say that he's a bad person and we stay away from him. If the kids are pushing to meet, as she says, you have to assume that it's coming from her. Can't see any other reason why they'd be so adamant to want to see a non-entity in their life. My daughters are 6 and 8 and are not at all interested to get to know my abusive mother, who I am no contact with. They don't know the extent of the abuse. To them, she's less than a stranger who did bad things and caused pain. OP must have worked hard to get those kids interested in meeting Grandpa. For what? Her sick curiosity? As a victim of parental abuse, this is the ultimate betrayal. And you know what? OP deserves to have all that shit dumped on her in the comments like this, because it is the ultimate betrayal. She wants family, like she's saying, yet her actions are directly causing a divide between everyone in her family? I don't know. It's just disgusting. It's truly disgusting behavior, and it does sound like a divorce is on the way, because what can you do to repair from here? I'm sure that people can sit down and fix their marriage, but Jesus Christ, how many years do you have to be together to know that, something like this isn't okay? Surely, being together since 15 or 18 years old and being in your 40s, you know that this is going to end your marriage if you do it. How dumb can you be? Our next post is by a deleted user, titled, "My boyfriend and I had an argument regarding his female friend and need to know the best way to approach her to fix this. My, female 22, boyfriend 24 male, has a friend, female 24, who as far as I know, has never been in a relationship. Ever since their friendship started, she would give my boyfriend a Valentine's gift every year. A few days ago, I brought up my discomfort about this since I'm currently his girlfriend and told the friend that I would appreciate it if she would respect my request to stop giving him Valentines. She disregarded my feelings, so I brought up this with my boyfriend, who also disregarded my feelings, which led me to saying some hurtful things about the friend and even accused her of being in love with my boyfriend and trying to keep him to herself. Ever since then, he's been ghosting me. He doesn't even come by the restaurant that I work at anymore, where we met. I figured the best way to handle this is to talk to the friend. I still have her number. I also know where she lives and works. What's holding me back from talking to her is that I'm afraid that boyfriend told her what I said about her from our arguments. What would be the best way to approach her? Are you crazy? Oh my god, that's so unhinged. Edits. Yes, he did tell me. I think we should break up. And yes, I called the friend a virgin loser. And yes, she performs this Valentine gift-giving tradition to all her friends and parents. I didn't mention these because I didn't think they were important. I just wanted to focus on making up with my boyfriend. I guess I didn't see what I requested was a big deal. I didn't think that it would get this serious. There were a lot of people that were sympathetic and agreed that I was reasonable, and I appreciate that sentiment, although I would have appreciated more if they gave me the advice that I'd asked for. That's why I came here. I guess my Valentine's has become my sad. Considering this was the factor of our breakup, I'll stop contacting him at least until Friday. Give him a few days to reconsider. Maybe the next time he sees my text, he'll realize how much he misses me." In the comments, Plupanoic says, "He hasn't responded to you for a few days, which, from your post, seems abnormal. When you said the hurtful things to him, how did he react in the moment? He said he thinks you should break up. He broke up with you when he said that. He hasn't talked to you in days. It's over. Move on. Nothing you can do. The advice you're seeking doesn't apply because he is your ex." And I've got to agree with that one, because what are you looking for here? He broke up with you. How is attacking his female friend and texting him again and further damaging your reputation in their eyes going to fix anything? What can you say to make this better? You've already burnt that bridge. OP, you are delusional. Leave these people alone. I know that relationship was weird, but you took it way too far and did the wrong thing to try and, fix whatever little Valentine weird thing they had going on. And now, on to the update. Granted, I knew this was a long shot, but I decided to contact the friend. Someone suggested me to show this post to my boyfriend, but I didn't do that because I thought that he would ignore it just like all my other texts and calls. Instead, I decided to show some of the replies that I'd gotten to show the friend that this is weird behavior between friends. I asked her if she can just be honest for once, that she may actually, in fact, have feelings for my boyfriend. She replied that she would like to speak in private and invited me to her apartment. This all happened yesterday. What I thought would be a conversation about trying to understand each other instead turned into a big dunk on me. She told me the reason that she's telling me this to my face instead of through a text is because since I'm acting immature about this whole thing, I'm going to talk to you like a child. She felt that even just the little things about her life that I shared with strangers and then showed their distorted judgment towards her was wrong. She says to me, "Pretty sure you'll share this too, but as soon as I finish what I said here and you walk out of here, I'm blocking your number and trying not to think of you ever again, just like boyfriend is trying to do." I then brought up some family issues that she would share whenever she wants just to get sympathy. She yelled at me and said that's her life that she shares with her friends and said that I'm talking about her life to strangers to get my own sympathy. She then said, "Unlike you, I don't judge people's value based on relationship status or if they have sex or not. Boyfriend is an awesome person. He deserves every good thing in his life. I thought you can be one of them. I thought you were a funny and sweet person, and I liked how you made him smile. Now whenever he thinks about you, he gets upset. And by the way, you two are definitely over. And no, I'm not going to help you understand about my lack of love life. There is nothing to understand. This is my life, and you are not involved in it, and you never will be. And you'll never be involved in boyfriends ever again." I was trying not to cry during this berating. Even when I broke down, she still kept talking while I couldn't even get a word in. I just said I want to talk to him, but she kept telling me to get out. When I calmed down a little in my car, I called my boyfriend. It automatically goes to voicemail. That has never happened before. I called again, and it goes to voicemail. I think he finally blocked me. I think we're over. I think it took me like 30 minutes to feel okay to drive. My friends and roommates tried to comfort me, but I was too exhausted, so I just took a nap. I'm still not feeling all that great, but I'm gonna try to move on. In the comments, TMCHD says, quote, "Instead, I decided to show some of the replies that I'd gotten to the friend that this is weird behavior between friends." You must have dug deep to find those, because the majority of us in the previous post told you not to harass and contact her and to leave it be. You refused the majority/consensus opinion. I'd say over 95% already told you that he's broken up with you and to not approach her again since you screwed it up by approaching her and yet you just chose to not listen. But some people, i.e. you, do not listen to common sense advice and have to do the hard way and got berated by his friend, whom, in my opinion, had every right to get upset at you. Sigh. Move on, move on. Finally, you were going to take the advice of many who told you to just move on. Edit to add, by the way, OP's ex-friend, if you find this post, you got it right. OP here is acting immature. She called you names, ignored the consensus that she should not have harassed you and her ex-boyfriend. It's very nice of you to basically tell her to her face. I would have just blocked her, and if she kept harassing me, I'd probably just get an RO or something akin to that in the end. Console Right What the Hell says, "You called her a virgin loser. She's generous for even giving you the time of day. You want to talk shit and you want to cry about it when those words have consequences? Pick a lane." Quotes, "And yes, she performs this Valentine gift-giving tradition to all her friends and parents. I didn't mention these because I didn't think they were important." Not important? That's very, very important. Totally changes the symbolism behind the Valentine's Day gift. Quotes, "And ever since then, he's been ghosting me. This relationship is done, but OP just didn't want to see it and had to drag the friend back into it. Oof." And they'd only been dating 4 months. If someone that I'd been dating for such a short amount of time tried to dictate what my friends could do and called them names, I'd be cutting them off and ghosting them too. He told her it was over, and she proceeded to make it worse. Slow clap. She kept calling him her boyfriend when everyone knew that it was over. She needs pride and therapy. I said, fine, whatever, and left the bar to a guy that I was seeing when I saw him making out with another girl, and I still feel mortified 20 years later. Meanwhile, some people are out there using time, transportation, and sheer moxie without a care in the world regarding embarrassment. My boyfriend, really ex, won't talk to me. I'll go to his friend that I called a virgin loser for answers. I'd rather yeet myself into the abyss. Am I the asshole for refusing to share my vacation home with my in-laws for 6 months after they sold their house without consulting me? For some background, my husband, 35 male, and I, 33 female, have been married for 5 years. We own a beautiful vacation home on the beach that we built ourselves and use throughout the year. My in-laws, 60s, have always been welcome guests, visiting for a few weeks here and there, and contributing financially towards maintenance costs. Last month, my in-laws suddenly announced that they were selling their house to downsize and move into a tiny condo. Apparently, they've been secretly harboring this idea for months, never mentioned it to me or my husband. They plan to close on the sale in 2 weeks, and then move into our vacation home for 6 months while they figure things out. I was floored. This house is our sanctuary, not a retirement home extension. We use it frequently, have friends and families booked to visit throughout the year, and rely on the income that it generates during peak season. My in-laws, on the other hand, haven't lifted a finger on the property themselves and contributed only minimally. My husband, bless his sweet heart, is more understanding. He feels bad for his parents and believes that we can make it work. His in-laws, sensing my resistance, are now guilt-tripping us, claiming they have nowhere else to go and offering to pay significantly more than their usual contribution. Am I the asshole for refusing to let them move in? On one hand, I feel obligated to help family in need, but on the other, this feels like an outrageous imposition on our personal space and finances. In the comments, someone asks, what else have they done? And OP says, on our first marriage anniversary, they gifted us a chicken. We lived in an apartment at the time. On Valentine's Day the second year, they showed up to our house mid-afternoon because they thought that it would be special to spend the night with us. On the birth of our daughter, my mother-in-law refused to leave the delivery room until I had the nurse drag her out, and then she sobbed obnoxiously loud in the hallway outside the room. When COVID happened, she ordered us cases and cases of beans and other canned food to help prep for the apocalypse, and then sent us the bill. My mother-in-law demands all holidays with them and shows up unannounced to my parents, who are 4 hours away each holiday we spend with them, and forces us out of my bedroom, and we sleep on the pull-out sofa the whole visit. My mother-in-law demanded my husband go to her house last year to fix something on our daughter's birthday, and then kept him there till after the birthday party was over, and then had a birthday party she planned for my daughter at her house the next day. Our second daughter's birth was similar, where she sobbed and instantly FaceTimed my husband since I refused to let her into my delivery room. She sent a mixed nuts package to my parents at Christmas this last year, knowing my dad is deathly allergic to tree nuts. I could go on and on. In the comments, Living Highlights 7777 says, not the asshole. It is outrageous. You'd be well within your right to say no. But I'm curious, how is your relationship with them otherwise? How is your husband's relationship with them? What other options do they have? Again, you have every right to say no, and it would not make you the asshole, but is it worth the damage it could do? In other words, are you okay with whatever fallout occurs? If you end up deciding to let them stay, I would be very clear about how upset and disrespected you feel, and that if they ever pull anything like that again, you are going to have major problems. OP replies, my relationship with them is strained because this is not the first time they have grossly overstepped. This has led to many fights between my husband and me. My husband sees no wrong in their behavior and thinks that we should just help them. Every time they're at the vacation home, they've commented on how much they love it and would love to live in a place like this at retirement. So I feel this was a very intentional move on their part. Not letting them stay will create conflict in my marriage, but I'm pretty positive that they will never leave if we let them move in. Quotes, every time they're at the vacation home, they've commented on how much they love it and would love to live in a place like this at retirement. Oh yeah, total red flag there. Make them sign a 6-month lease and pay rent and utilities. They are the assholes. Don't let them anywhere near residing there. They're planning on moving in and staying. They'll act as though they can't find a suitable house and continue to guilt trip every time you ask them to move out. No way. You should not agree to this. You'll be losing money because you shouldn't make them pay the full rental price because family. They seriously said they want to retire there. I would change the locks. Please, OP, do this and have someone keeping a lookout 24/7 as they might try to sneak in. No, 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 no. Not the asshole. Do not do this. Don't fall for the because family needs it BS. This isn't family in need of your space. This is running a con to get into your space. They can find plenty of spaces. Hell, take a cruise for 6 months. If they need help, you can help find them a temporary space for 6 months. In fact, why not meet them with a list of a few places they can look at? I know they won't look, but it sends the right message. They just showed you who they are. They are sneaky, manipulative, only care about what they want, and are willing to try and guilt trip you to give it to them. Nothing in this says that they are loving and want what is best for you. What do they even mean, figure things out? It sounds like they don't have a plan and are just expecting to move in and stay forever. Once they've established residency, you can't just evict them. You need to go through a process. Since your husband can't say no now, do you really expect he'll be able to say no later? There is no upside for you in this. There is only grief and pain. I wouldn't do this at all, but if forced to, I would have them on a lease. That way you can evict them once it ends. If they get in there without a set end date, it will go much worse for you. I am sorry your husband doesn't understand that his parents are using you both. Good luck. Oh yeah, after that shit show that was the further details and ways that the in-law has intruded on your life, do not let her in that place. Oh my god. She sent mixed nuts to your dad who has a deathly allergy to them? That's the one that stuck out to me the most, but everything else there was god-awful too. She sounds like an absolutely horrendous person to have to spend any amount of time around. Oh my god. And now you have this absolute gem that is so rare in this day and age for people your age to have. A holiday house by the beach that you make money off of, and you're just gonna let them take that from you and just control your life? No way! No! I already hated your mother-in-law from all the extra information you gave. Don't give me even more reason to hate her, please. And now, onto the update. I'll give a quick update while I wait for the kids to get home from school and answer a few questions that I saw pop up. We co-own the beach house. We bought it in 2020 when interest rates were super low, before houses skyrocketed. The in-laws have helped us with projects and pay for a few things, but so do my parents. So we've never thought of their contribution as anything but help from parents. They had their annual Old Farts Christmas party, their words not mine, there this past December, and had the place for a week free of charge for them and all their guests. So they definitely have gotten plenty use of it. We had a come to Jesus moment yesterday, and I was the asshole to my husband. I told him I was done, and I wasn't even entertaining them staying there, as it's our business, and this is bad business. I basically told him that I was over his mum, and it was at the point that I'm about to peace out, because I can't handle her shit anymore. Previous to this, I was no contact with her, and would entertain them when they'd come to visit. They never stayed at our house as we live relatively close to them. He still has no clue if they are truly selling their house, if they're upside on bills, or if they're just assholes, but I honestly don't care. My parents are immigrants and own a restaurant and have worked their asses off to create a fantastic life for my siblings and I. They also taught us the value of money and working hard for the things we have. The vacation home was bought cheap, but 90% of the renovations were done by me during my free time. Renovations are my true love. Nursing pays the bills. I love it too, but it doesn't fill the creative cup. I told him he'd lose the house to his parents over my dead body, and if he feels the need to financially set them up, he can do so with the extra money that he earns from picking up shifts, also a nurse. Basically, I told him their failure was not an emergency on my part. They've always kept up with the Joneses and spent exorbitantly, so they might be broke, and again, I don't care. I have barely tolerated his mum for the past few years. I'll be cordial because I was raised well, but I'm over tolerating their nonsense. I will say, he does see all this crap she pulls, but he was raised that mum knows best. He's Puerto Rican, so this is partially cultural. But I'm done. I worked yesterday and busted my ass, and then drove the kids to the beach house last night and picked up dinner, and we are there, and I just thought, no! So time will tell, but he called his parents and on speakerphone told them they couldn't stay, but the offer to condo hunt is still open, but he needs to know the price range and all that jazz. His mum cried, and I flipped the phone off. So as of this moment, it's not happening. I also told him if it's a problem, he can revoke his claim to the deed to the beach house, and I'll cover the expenses and manage it myself, 'cause mama don't play. And now onto the final update. In-laws did sell their house. They made little to no money, as apparently they took out a cash-out refinance a few years ago, so they had no down payment for a smaller place. They are now renting an apartment, as I really refused to help them financially. We did help them move their crap into the new place, so they didn't have to pay for movers. Basically, they were trying to live rent-free. My husband has barely spoken to them. The light bulb truly went off with all of this, so they suck. I knew. It seems he finally does too. But they're not in the beach house, and they won't be staying there anytime soon because I still don't trust them. In the comments, HungWhiteBoy25 says, "Man, I'm praying we don't get an update in a few weeks with the caption, 'I visited the beach house and my husband's parents were living there. Husband is begging me to understand.' But you know it's coming. 'Cause mama don't play, I 100% believe her. If that happens, she'll have them evicted and he'll be served divorce papers. The more this story went on, the more I grew to adore this woman. At first I read, we co-own the beach house as being in-laws and OP/husband, but the in-laws don't have an ownership stake in the beach house, right? I think you're right. We refers to OP and her husband. At least, I really hope so. The wording is definitely confusing. I can't imagine being so entitled that I would sell my house and have no contingency plans because I expected to live rent-free on someone's property regardless of them being my kid, especially with them being my kid. I know part of this is cultural, but that doesn't excuse being manipulative and vile to your own child's family and livelihood. The cultural part I get to some extent, but if there is merely a cultural expectation that your offspring will help you out, you don't hide your needs in this way. These parents could have said 6 months ago, "Yo, we're thinking of doing this, and we'd like to reserve the beach house for an interim time while we figure out the next steps." Just because you believe you can count on your kids to let you move in doesn't mean it's okay to plan on doing so without telling them, especially if the place you're planning to occupy is both their vacation home and a source of income for them. That's just emotional blackmail. Wait until it's too late for anything else, and then make it the kids' problem. OP should have made these boundaries years ago. Yep, good on you, OP. I wouldn't be surprised if a divorce happens in the future. I'm obviously not praying for one to happen, like hoping it happens, but this guy does sound spineless, and it took you whipping him into place to get him to actually understand the gravity of the situation. So sad that it took them moving out and then being like, "Oh yeah, we actually didn't have a plan. We don't have any money, by the way, either," for, for him to get it. What is going on in his head? I want to open it up and see what he was thinking, because That was insane, what he almost let happen. And props to you, OP. Mama, don't play. I believe you. I 100% believe you now. Our next post is by user GeneralNothing5798, titled, Am I the asshole for not wishing my mum a happy birthday and then not letting her come to our house? I, 25 male, have a wife, 24 female. For the sake of the story, let's call her Amelia. Amelia and I got married 2 years ago, coming up to 3 years in June. We've recently just had our first baby, a beautiful baby girl. My mum never was a huge fan of my wife for reasons I will never know, but I don't care, as I love Amelia so much, and I've had to defend her against my mum multiple times. My wife's labor lasted much longer than we expected. She started on Thursday evening and delivered our baby on Monday during the very early hours of the morning. As you can imagine, it was a long process, and she was exhausted, and so was I, as I wasn't sleeping unless she was asleep. My mum's birthday was on the Saturday, and she had a whole party planned out. Amelia at this point was in awful pain very consistently, meaning I was constantly by her side doing whatever she needed me to do, meaning that the Friday night we got no sleep. So when Saturday came around, we were both fighting the sleep and could barely stay awake. Because of this, I just completely forgot that it was my mum's birthday, as I didn't really look much at my phone, and if I did, it would be for entertainment for my wife and I together. We both agreed beforehand that when the time came, we would send the initial text that the baby was coming, but that would be it, and we wouldn't respond to any other text until after. Well, my baby girl was finally born, and we announced it to our family. Then I got to replying to my messages from the past few days, and that's when I saw my mum text about it being her birthday, and she sent a few more after, expressing her anger for me not getting in contact. So I called her up apologizing, but explaining that I genuinely forgot and it wasn't intentional. She went on to blame my wife by saying she purposely went into labor right around her birthday in order to steal the spotlight from her son, which I found really weird to say. From this comment alone, I got annoyed and just told her to leave me and my wife alone and that she isn't welcome at our house for the next few days. She can wait until she's over her fit to see her granddaughter. My whole family's been calling me an asshole and saying that I'm a bad son for not remembering my mum's birthday, but I'm an even worse son for not letting her meet her grandbaby. It's annoying because all we want to do is enjoy our new baby together, just the two of us, without anyone being a bother. So, am I the asshole? In the comments, someone asks, is this the first time your mum has had an issue with your wife? And OP says, no it's not. She tried to convince me not to marry my wife by bringing up her old Instagram with pictures of my wife and her ex-boyfriend. The thing is, she's ruined every relationship she's ever been in, and that's why. She's always been toxic to my wife, and it's not something that I can put up with. I've pulled her up on it, and she denies it. Why haven't you called her out on it before? OP says, I have, but she said something along the lines of, I'm your mother, you don't get to question me, and went off. We slightly cut contact after that, but not enough apparently. More about Mum and OP's siblings. OP says, she gave birth 7 times. I don't know, she claims that she was able to go into labor whenever she really tried to do so, and accuses my wife of doing the same. But my wife was overdue anyway, so naturally, for all the time she was overdue, we were trying to start her labor, but never meant for it to fall on my mother's birthday weekend. She lost custody of 4 of my siblings. I don't know them, but no, they are both still teenagers and don't really understand anyone's side other than my mum's, because I don't know what she told my sisters. She's single, old, and lonely, and I'm starting to understand why. Pinebox Waiting says, not the asshole. It's cute that your mum thinks that your wife is talented enough to go into labor on command. It's bizarre that you are the only person in your family who realizes the world doesn't revolve around your mum. Keep to your boundaries, Daddy, and congratulations. OP says, I mean, I know my wife's amazing and all, but she isn't that talented to go into labor on command. But thank you so much. She sounds so super lucky to have such a loving man. OP says, I'm blessed she puts up with me, lol. Not the asshole. Your mum should have understood when you told her that you were with your wife in labor, not been screeching and accusing. Tell or message your mum that after how she stupidly insulted your wife, specify that she accused your wife of choosing to go into labor to damage your mum's birthday party. You will need an apology from her to your wife in person and on social media. And CC that request to all the family. OP says, I love your attitude towards this situation. The public apology on socials, lol. Or, you can apologize to her publicly. I'm sorry that I forgot to text you happy birthday while we were at the hospital and my wife was in active labor. I'm so sorry that it wasn't the first thing on my mind when our baby finally arrived. I'm sorry that my forgetfulness caused you to have to call and text me multiple times to remind me about your adult birthday as we were in the hospital, and that you had to suggest your own make-up birthday present. I'm sorry that your own extreme reaction has made it so that I'm not comfortable with you being around my child yet. That was a banger of a response. I would post that on Facebook immediately and clap her down, OP. Not the arsehole for not wishing your mum a happy birthday and then not letting her come to your house. Who does she think she is for doing that to you? That is absolutely insane. I can see why she's sad, old, and miserable. At this rate, she's not going to have anyone visiting her at the nursing home, as we've seen multiple times over. It's so sad that you gave her a heads up that the baby was coming, she knew that, and yet there was no mention of like, oh my god, let me know when the baby's coming. It's my birthday, but it's fine. I just want to know about the baby. You guys do your thing. I've been a parent 7 times already, so I understand. No, everything is just about me. How dare you upset me? I removed half my brain with a lobotomy, and that's how I'm able to have kids on command. I hope you get that apology, OP. And now, on to the update. Hi! Firstly, I wanted to say thank you to everyone for your advice, and it really made me realize how serious this situation is. I took the advice and decided to post an Instagram and Facebook post because my mum got a chance too. In the post, I mentioned what my wife went through and purposely left in that she would never want to forcefully go through that, just to make it clear to my mum and family what the truth is. We announced that while we soak up our newborn, that uninvited guests won't be allowed into our home, so please respect our privacy as we take time as a new family. This worked, and I got a lot of friends and even some family commenting their congrats to us. My mum has since asked when she can see her granddaughter, and we've just said that she will see her when she fixes her attitude towards my wife, as my baby won't grow up to see her mother treated like she is nothing. Also, the fact that my wife never deserved to be hated in the first place. We are going no contact for now, and are as happy as we could ever be with our new baby girl. About my family, we've sent them a message with the full story, and now they feel like really awful about everything. Originally, my mum told them that my wife got induced and that she took some medicine to slow down the labor. I don't even think that medication exists, because apparently that's what I said on the phone, which is obviously not the truth, and my mum started claiming that I did that to compete with her. My sisters are only young and didn't question my mum, but now have been nothing but supportive. That being said though, I still have my guard up for now, just in case. Thank you again for your advice and all of your kind words to my wife and I. We really appreciate it. In the comments, BlueBeing22 says, you have one job right now, and that is taking care of your new little family in whatever way you need to. One of the ways includes keeping toxicity away from your wife, your baby, and yourself. Really, that's all. Not the asshole, and congratulations. OP says, I agree. Thank you. Lol, what? Your wife got induced and then took something else to slow the pregnancy down? That doesn't even make sense to take 2 medicines that work completely against each other to have a 3-day-long labor, all to show up your mother's birthday. There is no one special enough in the world that I would do that for, especially not to spite someone. You are all lucky your daughter wasn't born on her birthday. That'll be a mess. If you have preeclampsia, they give you magnesium, which is a muscle relaxer, and then they induce you. That is exactly why I had a 3-day labor. But you're correct, there is no one in the world who would do that purely out of spite. And now on to the final update, titled, I forgot to text my mum happy birthday when my wife was in labor, 1 year update. Hi, so I'm the guy whose mum claimed that my wife went into labor on purpose near my mum's birthday so that my wife could steal the spotlight. I forgot to text my mum happy birthday due to my wife being in active labor and being sleep deprived. We decided to go no contact after our baby girl was born. We only planned to do that for a little bit. However, it has been a whole year. My daughter turned 1 a few days ago, and it's just been the best year of my whole life. She's just perfect. However, my mum never stopped with her attitude she was giving us, meaning she still has not met her grandkid. It's been a whole year, and she still claims my wife went into labor on purpose. My siblings that I do have contact with have met her and do adore their niece. My mum still follows me on Facebook. I don't have her blocked on there, but she's definitely upset that she hasn't met the baby yet. Her own fault. Thank you again for all the love and support. It really was much appreciated. I just can't believe for a second that it's been a year. In the comments, Eccentrica Galumbit says, wow, what a narcissist. I'd be delighted if my daughter had a kid the same day as my birthday when she's older. I think it would be awesome to share a birthday with a grandkid. Stay strong, Dad. Hopefully she learns the error of her ways before it's too late. If not, you don't need that kind of negativity in your kid's life. My dad was thrilled when my sister-in-law went into labor on his birthday, unexpectedly early. I hope to never be your mum to my son when he's an adult. Congrats on the first best year of your life, and many more to come. Being able to go no contact like this and stick to it for a whole year is a pretty good indicator that the chain of narcissism has been broken. This mother is one of those parents who would wonder why their children will never see them anymore. What a narcissistic and bonkers mess of a person. I mean, seriously, how does one think you can go into labor on purpose? Like, what the hell? If my child had a kid on the same day as my birthday, I would be so happy and delighted. Best to stay no contact with her. My mother, who I limited contact with since my runaway, was very pleased when my oldest shared the same birthday as her. I had to remind my mother that her birthday on the official record is incorrect, because back then people barely submitted this information to the government immediately after birth. No, hospitals were rare and too expensive back then. But for OP's mother, I guess that having the granddaughter birthed by the woman she dislikes is enough for her to make it a big deal. It's good that OP will stay no contact with her. My great-grandfather decided that it was time for the eldest to go to school and found out he'd need birth certificates, so he registered 4 girls on the same day. We're not even sure the years he picked are right. She'd be around 5 and she was born in lambing season and... That's insane! My mum once met an elderly man who said he had 2 birthdays, his actual one and his official one. Dad had set off from their farm to register the birth, bumped into some friends who wanted to help him wet the baby's head, so they went to the pub. A few months later, his wife brings up something about the registration, and he realizes he celebrated so much that he didn't do it. Couldn't backdate to the actual birth at that point, so the official date was stuck being weeks out. Grace Stranger Than You says, just go ask all the women who are over 40 weeks pregnant why they haven't chosen to go into labor yet. Once they beat your ass, you'll probably learn that no, you can't just start labor whenever you feel like it. If women could choose their labor, my mother would have yeeted me out of her womb the first time the doc had, via manipulation, turned me around so that I wouldn't be a breech birth, not the 3rd. Apparently I was very comfortable in there and still had 10 days on the lease. Way to go on OP for protecting his own family by actions. Would I be the asshole here for leaving the relationship without fighting for it after girlfriend suggested open relationship? I'm gonna keep it really short and without details. I, 27 male, had been together with my girlfriend, 27 female, for 3 years. Stable relationship and no red flags from my point of view. Last Saturday, she asked for an open relationship. Her reasoning was we did not get to enjoy ourselves in the past, and it could help us strengthen the intimacy and love. I rejected it, and she seemed unhappy after that. I'm not gonna lie, an open relationship suggestion out of nowhere is a huge red flag for me and means probably that there is someone else she already has in mind. I have been cheated on in the past and made it very clear that I want a monogamous relationship before being exclusive. Her suggestion made me mental for a few days. I want to break up with her. I do love her, but she opened Pandora's box, and I'm not sure if I can trust her in that relationship. It will not be healthy for both sides. Would I be the asshole here if I leave the relationship without trying to salvage it? I tried saving my old relationship when there were trust issues, and it did not work. I just don't want to harm myself struggling here. At the same time, I doubt myself because I love her, and it's a 3-year-old relationship. In the comments, Swing Jiu-Jits says, "I'm really gonna miss you though. Take care." The sooner you move on, the sooner you heal. You can't heal while involved in active trauma. Every day, every hour you drag this out, you are compounding the damage. You deserve better. Choose it. I wish you two the best of luck. Who? You know exactly who. Yup, she has somebody already in mind once this topic is broached. And even if she doesn't, the trust is broken and he's already damaged from a previous relationship where he was cheated on. OP worded it perfectly already. He needs to protect his psychology from all of this. His life already taught him this one, not the asshole. Salvage what exactly? You wanted monogamy, expressed your wishes, and she countered with an open relationship. Dude, there is nothing to salvage. You would not be the asshole for walking away. 100% agree. Cut ties and walk away. It's going to eat you up knowing in the back of your mind constantly that she would be happy with an open relationship. It's a fundamental incompatibility. The thing is, true ethical non-monogamous and polyamorous people also would and should respect that someone wants to be monogamous and so would walk away as well. It's a compatibility issue. You would not be the asshole. Open relationship suggestions like that out of the blue are usually, as you said, because they've found someone they want to sleep with, or because they've already cheated and they're trying to find a way to make it okay. She's talking straight bullshit about strengthening intimacy and love. Open relationships are a huge strain on both of those things. Regardless, time to move on. Don't fight for it, just move on to someone you can trust. OP says, "Thank you for your input. My thinking is similar to yours." It does seem like not a good situation. I myself can't logic my head around the reality where this will be a net positive for the relationship because it's not something you want. And if anything is going to be added to the relationship, it has to be a two-way street. There has to be two yeses. The fact that she asked this question in the first place, yeah, I reckon that's a big red flag, and I'd be scared about what happens now when you say no and reject the offer. Just because there's no way that things go back to normal after this. I don't see that happening. And now, onto the update. I made a post 2 days ago about my relationship situation on this subreddit. I want to thank everyone. I took my time reading most of these comments, and there was some really useful advice. I talked to her yesterday and broke up with her. I told her I thought about her proposal and wanted to ask her a question. I basically asked why she proposed going open relationship out of nowhere. She said she heard it from her friends and would like to try it to strengthen our relationship. I asked her if she had someone in mind already, and she said no. I thanked her for her answers, but stated that I want a strictly monogamous relationship. Also, I told her how my trust for the relationship was shaken after her proposal, and I want to break up with her. I wished her the best and prepared to leave the table. She got angry, a bit too angry at me. She called me insecure and called me every name possible in the book. I left the table quickly after hearing these and went back home. She started calling me, texting me in an angry tone, and I just had to block her. We both live with our families, so breakup was quickly done. No need to take my belongings from the shared home or anything. There is no problem until here. Today, a friend told me she saw her with a male coworker the same night and asked me if I knew it. I told her that we broke up yesterday, so yes, she definitely had someone in mind. It doesn't hurt as much as I thought it would. Maybe it's because I was ready for such a thing. Maybe my mentality changed after the last time that I got cheated on. My mindset is all about moving on and not worrying about things I cannot control anymore. Had she been cheating during the relationship or not? I don't care to know. All I can do is to move on and live my best life. I have a trip to South Korea this month and I want to enjoy it. Thank you for all the advice, Reddit. Take care. In the comments, Kong Teddy Mix says, when the first thing that happens after breaking up is they call you every name in the book and such, then it's like, yup, made the right call. Hearing about this seeing her with another guy is just icing on the cake. Yeah, them getting mad about you sticking to your guns is such a validating thing because it shows they don't respect you or your opinions, just that you aren't going along with what they want. Of course she had someone in mind. She just wanted her cake and have the bakery to come home to. Good riddance to bad rubbish. OP can do better. I don't care how many people on Reddit say people use the term red flag too much on here. When a person's reaction to something that you have said and done is basically, how dare you have a spine, it's a red flag. I'm not sure why she's mad, but who cares? All the best. Well, that's an easy one. She only brought up open relationship because she thought he was scared to lose her and would cave in. He didn't, which pissed her off. You can't bruise her ego, lol. Worse, he dumped her near instantly. No letting things go so she could cheat behind his back. She never thought that she would be the one getting dumped. She didn't just have someone in her mind, this was an I don't feel too bad for cheating on you question. Well done for not tolerating her BS. She wanted it to be his fault. She's just an innocent in all of this. Lamau? I'm beginning to think the smart question after an out-of-the-blue request to open a relationship isn't, do you have someone in mind? But rather, who do you have in mind? I don't believe in asking questions you already know the answer to. It's just a setup for a lie. You get that request, you gotta know they already have someone in mind. So don't ask. Instead, ask who it is. Smart. And that's why I read the comments here, because if this ever happens to you guys, do that. Ask, who do you have in mind? Because now you know what to do. If they're gonna cheat on you, find out where they're going first. Lessen the emotional impact on yourself. Be smart about these things, because cheaters do not care. They are ruthless people. I very much applaud OP for having a titanium spine in this situation. That was an insanely fast turnover. That's just, as soon as you ask the question, I'm a head out. Good luck with your next relationship. I'm not dealing with this shit again. Bye. Good job, OP. I am very proud of you for that one. Round of applause. Our next post is by user ExpensiveOpinion952, titled, My brother-in-law is the reason why my husband left me. I don't know what to do now. I, female 38, met my brother-in-law, male 38, at university. He asked me out in our first year, and I refused. He called me the C-word and said that I'm shallow. My best friend told me that it was harmless comments from a drunken guy who got rejected. I never thought myself shallow. It was his demeanor and awkwardness that was off-putting to me. Anyway, he proved my friend right, and other than these comments, I've never felt uncomfortable during my uni years because he never bothered me again. He didn't even look my way. The next time I met him was when my baby sister, female 28, introduced him as her boyfriend. I didn't even recognize him at first because it was like 9 to 10 years since that day that he talked to me. He was visibly annoyed that I didn't recognize him and called me a liar. The family was skeptical about him at first, but he seemed to treat my sister right, and she seemed happy. He's very rich. Taking her all over the world, and he seemed very kind with her too. They got married after a year of dating, and they have 3 children. I met my now ex, male 40, 5 years ago, and the only odd comment from my brother-in-law was that I was still as shallow and superficial as I was in uni. At the time, I took it as a joke, but in hindsight, when I found out the truth and started thinking back looking for red flags, this was probably a big one. He never showed any signs that he disliked my husband, and he was always decent enough, and his indifference, to have a close friendship with my husband, and it never seemed odd because he was always a recluse. A year ago, my husband came home and accused me of cheating and said that he had evidence. The guy contacted him and said he had nudes, etc. of me on his phone. The guy told my husband that he didn't know at first that I was married, but as soon as he found out, he contacted my now ex. He even apologized to my husband. I have never met this guy in my life. Nothing I said or did made my husband believe me. He left me, and our divorce is pending. Then yesterday, that guy contacted me. He apologized for what he did and told me that he is friends with my brother-in-law. He sent me conversations, endless conversations my brother-in-law had about me for years. He has never forgotten that I, in his words, didn't even give him a chance and only judged him by his looks. He called me the C word in that chat too. Both group chats with his friends, but mostly with this guy. They planned this attack, and my brother-in-law somehow got access to my photos. The reason this guy contacted me now is that he felt guilty because even when my marriage is over, my brother-in-law still was angry and hateful, especially when he heard that I was on a date last weekend. So the friend felt that he didn't help his friend, but ruined innocent people's lives. I'm not sure what to do. My brother-in-law has actually been happier and more sociable than usual since my divorce, and now I know why. Although first I thought that he felt sorry and wanted to support me. His jokes about me ending up an old maid with cats as companions doesn't sound like jokes anymore. He meant them. I don't want to ruin my sister's life. She's very happy with her husband. I'm also not sure if I can with her husband. I'm not sure if I should tell my ex or not. I am very heartbroken that he didn't believe me. I love him very much. He is the love of my life, but I'm not sure if I can forgive him for not believing me. But he is a victim in this too. So maybe he needs to know for closure. I am so terribly sad and hurt. I'm sorry this post got very long. In the comments, Wine0560 says, "It wouldn't shock me if this guy found your sister and is dating her just to remain close to you. Feels too coincidental that he somehow popped back up in your life and then got mad that you didn't remember him." OP says, "I feel so too. It makes it even worse." Then, do you think her happiness is real, or is it based on a lie? Because the chances are it's all a lie to get closer to you. Contact your ex and explain what you've been told. Then contact your sister and be honest with her. Those kids deserve better. Call your husband ASAP if you don't want a divorce. He deserves to know the truth. It's not about not believing you. If the shoe were on the other foot, you wouldn't have believed him. If I was the husband and someone tricked me like this, I think I would genuinely want to kill this man. Holy shit. Maybe it's because I grew up in a shitty part of South Carolina, but I know some folks whose whole families would break out the ARs and fix this guy. Why wouldn't you tell your sister her husband is batshit crazy? Anne seems weirdly obsessed with OP, to the point their marriage might be a weird revenge fantasy for him. Oh my god, that's entirely possible. I wonder how much OP and her sister look alike. He definitely hates seeing OP in a relationship. He wants her to be single and lonely, because every guy she accepts obviously must have something that he lacks since he got rejected. And that's a no-go in his books, so he's doing everything he can to make OP feel miserable. So the very least she should do is going absolutely no contact with him, because he won't stop until the ending with only cats as companions. And like a true narcissist, he can't see that he's a toxic, rotten person, and that's the cause of all his problems. Yes, you should tell your sister that her husband is crazy. Yes, you should clear your name with your ex, even if you don't want to go back to him. You should also go to the police over your pictures that he shared without consent. And OP replies, "I will be honest, I'm terrified." Seems like he has an obsession with you. If your sister chooses to forgive him, you should cut contact with them. You should tell them, this is beyond normal petty stuff. What will he do next if he's not stopped now? If you get married again, will he pull the same crap? Your sister deserves to know who she married, and your ex deserves to know that he was conned. I wouldn't be able to forgive him for not believing me either, but he does deserve to know what happened. Be ready to have every backup for this, because he will try to discredit you. Yep, I think that's a pretty good suggestion there, OP. I feel like you have all the evidence you need for a situation like this, but who knows, maybe give it some time and collect even more evidence so that your side of this situation is completely irrefutable. I do not like anything about this entire situation, and if you don't put your foot down, it's going to get worse. He's going to ruin every relationship going forward into the future. I understand that you're terrified, but I don't see any reason to sit on your hands on this one. The more you do that, the worse it gets. That's what he wants. Update number 1. My soon-to-be ex-husband knows everything now. Apparently the guy who contacted me contacted my husband at the same time and confessed to him. My soon-to-be ex is coming to town this weekend and he wants to talk. Afterwards, I'll probably need to look into taking legal actions, if that's possible, and tell my family. I think now that exposing him is the best and most safe approach should anything more serious happen. At least people would be aware of who to blame. I want to at least make sure that my sister and her children are in safety before I tell them everything, like meeting them at my parents' house after I tell my parents. The pictures were real and were probably stolen from my phone or my husband's because he is the one that I took the pictures for. I don't know if I can get any justice since the pictures were not of my face. At least I was smart enough to not have my face shown in nudes. I don't know what will happen. In the comments, Spooky Sam says, "So you're telling me that this guy has kept himself around you for 20 years and is still hung up on you rejecting him? It sounds like he's preyed on your sister to get close to you and will keep trying to ruin your life if you let him get away with this. You need to tell your sister what he did, and the guy he used needs to tell your ex what he did. Not to stir any of the pots or get your ex back, but so everyone knows what a psycho this guy is. If he's still trying to get back at you after decades of you simply rejecting him, he's never gonna stop, and he's never going to let you be happy." OP says, "Yes, he's been following me throughout my uni years and even afterwards. He found my sister and he managed to charm her. When they got married, I was single, and apparently he was telling his friends how he was glad that I was old and single and miserable. Not my experience of my single life. Then when I met my husband, he was angry because he didn't think that I would find someone at my age, 33. Now when we are getting divorced, he was very pleased again, saying I would definitely never find someone at 38, that I would regret turning him down. But I was on a date last weekend, so he spiraled down again and was angry and wrote horrible things about me, so his friend chose to come forward because he thought that my divorce wasn't enough for this guy. His words. I really don't have much to add. My sister is very angry. She said that I have ruined her husband's reputation because my ex has blasted him and his friends everywhere. Now he's talking about wanting to end his life because I ruined it because of a joke he played. My parents have told her everything the day everything was exposed, and apparently she believed them, me, at first, but now she has turned on me, so she's refusing to listen. I wish I could have a moment with her before all hell broke loose." OP also says, "He's looking for jobs here because he wants to move back. I got very anxious and asked if he's doing this because of me, because we are not together, and this wasn't the right time to pressure me, but he said he was doing it for himself, and that he doesn't want anything from me but that, and he doesn't want to leave town for brother-in-law to think he has easy prey to harm. I didn't ask about the one he is seeing. I felt that it would be disrespectful to interrogate him since I have no right to do that. Maybe it's not serious, or maybe she is willing to move here, I don't know. I have spoken to lawyers, and they don't seem to think that this could lead to anything." Ancient Swan says, "There needs to be legal consequences of this as well. How did your brother-in-law get private photos? It's such a huge invasion of privacy. Maybe talk to a lawyer. You also need the friend to talk to your ex, but I doubt that marriage is salvageable, and your sister may or may not want to know. That depends on your relationship. If she knows the truth, then it is her decision to leave him or to cut you out. And if she cuts you out, then that's not someone that you need in your life." OP says, "Unfortunately, there will not be any legal consequences. The police seem uninterested. He has access to your photos. That is all revenge porn." And OP says, "Yeah, they didn't care." OP, Were you able to discuss with your soon-to-be ex the repercussions of his actions? Is he offering to help with the lawsuit or help clean up a bit of the mess that he's made? With everything you went through, it sucks that he confronted them first. You were definitely the real victim here, and he made it even worse. Also, cops won't help you on this. You can file a report and give it to a lawyer. I'd talk to a lawyer and sue or press charges. Once in front of a judge, other charges may be given. OP says, yes, and he said that he couldn't just wait and let brother-in-law believe that I was alone and an easy prey. He said the police wouldn't do anything. He was right about that. And that people like brother-in-law are better to be exposed to everyone because they value their image. He doesn't seem to be understanding of my sister, however, and the way that she was put in the middle. He did apologize a lot, but probably only because I was distraught and upset about what he did. I don't think he regrets anything. He's very sad himself, and he's been apologizing all the time about everything, including not believing me or trusting his gut that he believed me. My brother-in-law hasn't bothered me again since he tried to call me to threaten me after everything blew up because my ex went to his place again and threatened beating him up again. Now my sister is even angrier. And for this final update, OP says, yeah, it's over. I don't think it was a serious relationship. I just heard rumors that he had a girlfriend, but didn't know the details, so maybe I thought that it was more serious than it was. Now he's moving back, and I haven't heard that someone is moving with him. So I don't know. We talk on the phone every day, but I don't want to pry. So far on any news on the brother-in-law, OP says, he has filed no contact orders against my ex-husband and me. And in the comments, Otaku-san617 says, OP is weirdly passive in all of this. She doesn't really do much or stand up for herself. She just worries about everyone else. If I were in her position, I'd also be more worried about my sister marrying such a psycho that is willing to go to great, intricate lengths to ruin my life. The sister is clearly under his manipulation and can be physically harmed if he is threatening self-harm. The sister should be thankful that her husband was exposed for the scum that he is. Right now, she's probably very humiliated that her love life and family have been nothing but a lie and a shield for this psycho. She's also likely deep in the sunken cost fallacy stage too, especially as she was appalled at the proof of the truth at first, but then decided she needed to believe she meant more to him than that, because if not, then she's wasted years of herself with this quote-unquote man. So instead, sister has to make OP the bad guy for the sake of sister's own delusion and sanity. For now, it's easier, in her mind, to be angry at the real victim rather than start to process and deal with the fact that she's been nothing but a means to an end for a man that she gave her heart to. I'm not defending the sister here, I've just seen this type of behavior before, and the why of it. I hope she's able to come out of this and be with her parents and OP again. I feel sorry for the both of these women. Not everyone is willing to go scorched earth. I am, but I guarantee my younger sister would need to think on it, pray on it, mull it over some more, ask at least 5 people for advice, go on a retreat, research it, pray some more, go on another retreat, and then decide to let bygones be bygones since it happened 2 years ago by the time she was ready to decide. Just saying. Jesus effing Christ. I had a friend like this, and her constantly asking for advice was exhausting. Like, excessive obsession on whatever was bothering her, and then absolutely never actually using the advice I would repeatedly give her. We aren't friends anymore. I have someone in my life like that, and it pains me so much how I can relate to that. Oh my god. Hey, here's what you should do. It's a fairly simple situation. You've already spent a week sitting on your hands on this one. How about you go and do what I said you to do? Oh, no. Too busy today. I'm really tired today. I need to go sit down and have a nap. And I gotta go for a holiday for 2 weeks. I can't deal with it before then. I'm really busy planning everything. Oh my god. I hate people like that so much. Trauma from people that will not help themselves when it's a simple fix. Anyway, I know that it's not a real update for this situation, but there was so many updates. Obviously nothing happened because some people are just like that. Some people are just beyond help. I don't know what's going to happen in this situation, but I hope OP gets a lawyer instead of just saying, oh, the police said it's not worth going after. I'm just going to let him continue to ruin my life. No! Get a lawyer! Jesus Christ! He's not going to stop. You know he's not going to stop. What's wrong with you? Am I the asshole here for getting engaged to my ex-husband's new girlfriend's ex-husband? I, 49 female, and my ex-husband, 50 male, let's call him Kevin, got divorced, and the straw that broke the camel's back was when I came home with a present for him for our anniversary, and he accused me of getting it from whoever I was sleeping with, and then threw it away. He didn't even open the present, which was a Rolex watch that he had looked at multiple times and expressed that he liked. I talked to a divorce attorney after this, and we filed within a month, and he moved out. I told my attorney about this, and he wanted to know where he moved out, as Kevin wouldn't list his new address. It was revealed that he moved in with his new girlfriend, 50 female, let's call her Jenny. I actually knew Jenny, as our oldest kids have been in the same class since pre-K. I also knew Jenny and her husband, 52 male, let's call him Terry, just got divorced right before us too. It takes a little over a year to finalize the divorce since Kevin couldn't agree to any terms. A few weeks after the divorce, Kevin and Jenny went public with their relationship on a luxury beach trip. Terry sends me a friend request that I quickly accepted. I'll admit, at this moment I was being shallow because he's undeniably attractive. He's 6'3", tan from working outside on his farm, and fit. And he messaged me right after, just asking if I had seen the post and blah blah blah. The conversation quickly turns into making plans to get dinner and drinks one night. It was Kevin's first weekend with the kids, so Terry and I went out. It sounds sappy, but in that moment, I knew this could be something. It felt natural talking to him, and like I didn't have to walk on eggshells or tiptoe around things. He was the first person to actually look at me while I'm talking, and we agreed on almost everything. I invited him over after we left, and we had a few more drinks, and watched a sappy love movie, and had so much fun making fun of how unrealistic it was. We somehow finished a bottle and a half of wine, so I invited him to stay the night. He offered to sleep on the couch, but I told him he could sleep in the bed since I wasn't sleeping well, because I wasn't used to sleeping alone. The next morning, I made us breakfast, and we agreed that we should do this another time, and that it was great. As we were eating, Kevin texted me that he was down the road to drop the kids off. Terry then rushed to get dressed, and left. It felt terrible making him leave like that, and of course, the first thing Kevin asked was about if he saw Terry's truck coming down our road. I told him nope, and he dropped the kids off and left. That was 4 years ago. And shortly after that, Terry admitted to me that he wanted a relationship, and I said yes. We kept it private all this time because it's really no one's business to know, as long as we were happy together. We just celebrated our 4th anniversary, and beginning in November, Terry started to hint that he wanted to propose and wanted me to move to his farm in another town since he lived an hour and a half away. Our anniversary was December 1st, and he planned a surprise dinner with all of our friends to propose to me. I couldn't believe that he really did all of this for me. All of our friends were incredibly supportive and agreed that we seemed happy together and deserved to be happy with each other. The next day, I made a post that we were engaged. This was the first post about Terry and I on each other's page. Right after the posts, we started to get calls, texts, Facebook messages from Jenny's family, Kevin's family, and Jenny sent a long message to Terry saying that she couldn't believe that we would do this and didn't check with them first, and how insensitive it was to get engaged when we knew that her and Kevin were on a break because of the fighting. He ignored all of her messages until we both got messages from my family saying that we were shitty people for getting engaged in spite of Jenny and Kevin, and how they no longer wanted to see my kids and wouldn't be attending the wedding. Terry started to help me sell my house since he also works for a real estate company, and we packed all of my stuff up and sold all the furniture, and then he moved me into Terry's house. I left my job and was actually able to get a job at his company as a secretary. He has 2 sons who treat me very well. They don't call me their mum, and I don't expect them to either, but they do tell people that I'm their stepmom, and they surprised me with a basketball mum shirt with their names and numbers for Christmas. I couldn't stop crying after seeing it because it was so meaningful to me to see how they considered me their stepmom. Kevin had the kids for Christmas, and we were supposed to begin the normal split custody in January. Since the first of the year, the kids have said they don't want to see me, and Kevin said that he's talking with an attorney to change our custody schedule and that he wants full custody. I am finally happy with someone that loves me, planning a very small wedding with only friends and family that were supportive of our relationship, and have 2 new stepsons that love me. But I feel so empty without my kids. I took them to meet Terry, and he had been to dinner with us a couple of times, and he treated them like his own, and he never got onto them or was mean to them. I feel so conflicted about what to do. My kids won't even talk to me over the phone, and they refuse to see me. So, am I the asshole for getting engaged to Terry? Edits. My kids have always known Terry, and were introduced to him after 1.5 years of us dating. They had no problem with us being together and knew about the engagement, as Terry took them to pick out the ring. It's not like he's a total stranger to them, as they've been around him multiple times and been to his house. I hope this can clear up some confusion, and I plan to elaborate more when I have an update. Mini updates. I was able to talk to my usual therapist about a session next week to help the kids talk and maybe help them understand the truth. It's next Friday when I would usually pick them up, so hopefully it goes well. Fingers crossed. In the comments, Koala Bear 20 says, "Not the asshole. Are your kids okay? What have you done wrong? Their dad is allowed to have a new relationship, but you aren't?" And OP says, "They're okay from what I've seen. Terry and Jenny's kids have tried to be friends with them, but they have said that my kids don't talk to them. I won't try to act like I've done nothing wrong, but I feel like when they started to ignore me, I started to go to Terry's kids' sporting events more. I would attend my kids' games, but they didn't even acknowledge me after or before. I felt useless going, so I didn't even attend the last game. But I still dropped off presents for Christmas, offered to take them to dinner for Christmas without Terry or his kids, and to just spend time with them. Not the asshole. How old are your kids? I wonder what their dad/your ex is putting into their heads. While he's going for custody, you may want to go after him for parental alienation. He sounds like a real winner." And OP says, 17, 15, and 10. Dee Dee says, "You've been dating for 4 years and your kids didn't know it? You got engaged without introducing the kids to the boyfriend?" And OP says, "They already knew Terry. He has kids the same age that played the same sports, and I did tell them that I was dating someone after 1.5 years. I still wasn't sure how they would react, but they seemed fine with it, and I introduced them to Terry shortly after that. Since he didn't live close, he tried to come over on the weekend, but it would usually only be a couple of times a month. Like I said, they went to dinner with us and have been at the house with us together. They really didn't act like they cared, to be honest." Bookreader123 says, "I don't understand why they have a problem with it now and not before everyone knew about Terry. I also think that your ex is telling them lies and would go to a lawyer. What did the kids say about you moving? Do they live with their dad, or what's the deal? As you said, Terry lives 1.5 hours away. Where are his sons? Do they go to the same schools?" And OP replies, "I told the kids about moving, and they said they wouldn't be totally interested as they like their current school. They are currently with their dad. Terry was awarded full custody after Jenny received a DUI with one of their kids in their car during their custody hearing. Jenny lives in their old house that he gave her after the divorce, and now he lives in a ranch house that he built with the kids, and they attend a school there." Harry Potter Freak 23 says, "I don't know if anyone caught this, but within the first paragraph, the ex says OP was cheating. Then she doesn't say much of anything else. Granted, she doesn't have to say anything, but she doesn't deny or confirm. I'm also not saying the ex wasn't cheating, but why gloss over the fact that he told her she was cheating first?" And OP says, "I realized after that the first part of my post got deleted. I was promoted to director of my department and was working extra hours. It was during a busy season, so I was working even more, and he started to accuse me of cheating when I was gone longer than expected. I never did cheat." Yeah, what a messy situation this one is, but it's clear that this is just a case of parental alienation, and I'm sure when the kids grow up and can look back on this with clearer minds and a better understanding of the situation, they will completely shit on the dad, hopefully. The worst thing about these situations is being that kid that's young, has not got a fully formed brain, it is being spewed propaganda by both sides, and you don't really know what to think of it. I really hope that when OP's ex goes to court with her, he doesn't drag the kids into it, because that is the worst thing you can do. He should not be doing that. It's only going to further blow things up down the line. But yeah, I don't think you're the asshole here for getting engaged to your ex-husband. I think there's jealousy, anger, and resentment coming from the other parties that are trying to blow your life up, and F them for doing that to you. And now, on to the update. I'm not sure how much of an update this is, but here we go. To start, I'm sure him and Jenny had an affair when we were still married, and I really don't care to know. I don't let them waste any of my energy worrying about them or what they do or did. I probably could have worded the end of my post better. Terry isn't a stranger that I just pulled off the street and got engaged to. My kids have always known Terry, as his kids are the same age and played the same sports. I told them that I was dating someone after a year and a half and introduced them to him shortly after. They've been to dinner with Terry and me, and have been with me when Terry came over, and been to Terry's house where he lives. He's a very busy and hardworking man, so we didn't get to spend very much time together where I live, or with my kids, so I would usually spend time at his house, but I never skipped time with my kids to see him. Terry is a farmer, land real estate agent, owns his own business, and a volunteer firefighter, so that's why I decided to move there instead of the other way around. He has roots in his area while I was free to move. I did tell my kids prior to the move and engagement that I would like to one day move there. They did tell me that they really wouldn't be interested in moving there, as they liked the school they attended and didn't want to switch. I was fine with that and told them that if I did, I would still like them to stay even if it's for a weekend or when they're on break. Terry also took all 3 of my boys and his 2 to pick out my ring, so it wasn't a shock to any of them. Terry asked all 3 of my kids individually if they were fine with it before he even proposed. I was also asked about if they could come to his house, and yes, they could. Terry has a very nice ranch house that he built with 5 full bedrooms and 3 empty finished rooms in the basement that could be bedrooms. They've already stayed there too before the engagement and had no problems. Terry also has a room that he calls his office that he offered to clear out to make room for an upstairs bedroom, so one kid didn't have to sleep downstairs if all 5 were staying at his house, so they could have their own rooms and privacy. I didn't want to act like I was hiding my relationship with Terry, but we wanted to take things slow and not rush, hence why we didn't post to social media or tell our exes. Obviously, friends knew. You can only tell people you're friends for so long before they catch on. But we only told very, very close friends who won't gossip and tell everyone. And lastly, the last question was about my job. Yes, I went from a director of a department to a secretary making just under what I made as a director. You all would be very surprised what small-town local business secretaries make. I'm a secretary and accountant for the land real estate company, as well as Terry's business that he owns, and his farm. I go to work at 2:30 a.m. with him, and don't leave until he does at around 9 p.m., and still have farm chores after. So for everyone degrading my career, I work my ass off. Now on to the update. After that post and the advice, I called my lawyer, who agreed that he can't keep the kids from me and that he was definitely doing something to make them flip like that. He did say that we could go to court, but I told him that I wanted to try and resolve it without court first. I'm not ashamed of it, and I'll admit it. I see a therapist for my own health. I talked to her about getting a session with just my kids, and she agreed. I called Kevin after that to say that I wanted to have a talk with only the boys and he could drop them off, but he could not attend. The therapist was able to finally get them to open up. You Reddit detectives were correct. He turned the story to that Terry and I had an affair for years before we got divorced, and even tried to tell the youngest that Terry could be his dad because I was cheating then, which isn't true, as I never cheated on Kevin in our entire relationship. I was able to tell the kids the full truth, and I felt like a 50-pound weight was lifted off my chest. After, I had never been happier to hug all three of them. I made sure to express how much we missed them and are happy to have them home. And completely unexpected was all three gave Terry a hug next. Terry isn't one to cry about much, or cry very easily, but the second they hugged him, I saw his eyes water up, and I knew that I was making the right decision and picked someone who loves these boys as much as I do. They spent the weekend with us, and I was able to tell the older two the full story about Kevin and Jenny, how the marriage fell apart, and once again invited them to live with us. They both said they actually wanted to, but since Kevin had fed them lies, they didn't want to be around us. They get out of school in May and are planning to move in with us for the summer. This will hopefully be a good opportunity for them to bond with Terry's kids and their friends. I will not be pushing them to move here as it's their own choice, but deep down, I really do hope they do. I think going to a smaller school and living in a smaller town will be better for them than living in a city. I told my youngest a more watered-down version of events. I did make sure to tell him that Kevin is his real dad, and what he told him about Terry was not true. He seemed to understand it. So for the moment, Kevin is fine with the boys moving here for the summer. All three asked him instead of me, and I think that helped a lot. Showing him it was their decision instead of mine. To say I'm excited is an understatement. I'm over the moon with how much this is working out. I've talked with my lawyer, and he said the older two were able to decide where they go, while Kevin and I would have to come to an agreement for our youngest. I don't want full custody, as I think kids need their father in their lives, but my lawyer is urging me to fight for full custody. With travel sports starting up, Kevin and I were able to agree on a temporary agreement of me getting the kids on weekends that they have a game. I will pick them up on Fridays, go to the game on Saturday, and bring them home Sunday. We've been talking with lawyers about a permanent agreement. They were able to agree with the older two having a decision as long as they didn't miss anything required, such as school. Some things Kevin has told the kids is that Terry is still dependent on drugs. To make a long story short, about 2 years ago, Terry had been having neck problems and saw a chiropractor for the first time in his life. The chiropractor broke his neck in 4 places, C4 to C7, resulting in him needing 2 surgeries and becoming addicted to painkillers. He was on them for a year, and it took him another 6 months to get off. But he's been clean since of any prescription painkiller. Said that Terry and I wanted to take them away and never let them see their other family. Tried to accuse me of being addicted to drugs. I get even more sick and nauseous taking painkillers, so I refused to take any, even after a mastectomy and reconstruction surgery. And I also found out that Jenny was calling them my boys, and wanting them to take her last name. That is still Terry's because she refused to change it after the divorce. So there's still lots that we don't know, and hopefully will one day. In the comments, Leaks G says, "What your ex did was emotionally abusive to his youngest. He told him he might not be his dad. You should go for full custody rather than letting him poison your children. He was fine causing them distress to harm you. Stop thinking it's good for them to have a relationship with a father who would hurt them to hurt you. He isn't safe." Yeah, OP, listen to your lawyer. I'm happy to read this update. I'm so glad you were able to tell your kids the truth and the lies that their dad was telling them. The issue of him lying to them needs to be addressed, preferably in a text or something so you have proof. But this was a great update, and I'm happy that you're all well and that you are happy. Clearly, your ex and Jenny are just jealous that you are both happy together, and they are not. Don't let them ruin your happiness. Congrats, and best wishes to you all. This is a fabulous update. I suspect that your ex and his girlfriend are just upset that you're not both home, wallowing in your tears against your pillows. I'm glad that it worked out for you. Good luck for your futures. I wish you the best. You should absolutely go for full custody. You could allow relaxed visitation if you like, but get full custody so there is no convoluted decision making about the kid's schooling, health, or anything else. I agree that it's important to the children to maintain contact with the dad, but in the end, you need to protect yourself and Terry against malicious actions, and the best way to do that is full custody. Good luck. I'm glad you found someone who loves you and respects you and your boys, not the asshole. Yeah, I do think that full custody is a good idea in this instance, but Reddit doesn't always hit the mark with giving advice. There can be some weird and wonderful things that they say, but in this instance, he's just going to continue poisoning your kids against you. To me, that's not going to work out well for him in the long run, and you can continue doing that if you want, but I think you protect your kids the most when you get full custody and you can decide when they see him because he's not being a good parent and there is no good faith here. Regardless, not the arsehole.